Welcome to J is for Justice podcast. If live breaking news and following true crime is your thing, then please consider subscribing to my channel. And if you like what you see in my videos, please consider giving them a thumbs up. Happy Saturday. Hello, everyone. Welcome to J is for Justice. My name is Jay, and I am your host. If you're new in here, thanks for coming in. This is Daybell Highlights. If you are my regular Daybell Highlight peeps, welcome back. The fam is here. I hope everybody's staying safe from all these crazy tornadoes and storms and just crazy weather. So stay safe out there. Welcome in all the members and moderators. Thank you for coming in today. I'm wearing the new 420 merch, guys. Check it out in the merch store. It is still available by popular demand. We've sold a lot of the 420 merch. You guys are some smokers out there. I love it. So there's a mug, and then there's two different t-shirts. Double-sided and one-sided t-shirts. My merch store is the home of the $20 tees. Every day, all day, guys. So welcome aboard. We have our Daybell all ready to go. We're going to do 11 and 12. Days 11 and 12. Hey, Jammers and Diana. Hello, beautiful women. Dressed in blue.
I heard Eduardo with like a G.
But guys, I have got to talk about this. And I don't know the best way to do it. But what we're going to do, coming in hot. I got a coming in hot shirt coming too.
Coming in hot.
Just like the fajita. We're actually having decent weather. It's hot, but it's, a little bit overcast now, but it's warm out. So, ugh. But anyways, tomorrow, guys, special members only live tomorrow. Sherry coming in hot with the first super sticker of the live stream. Sherry Patella is our first super sticker of the day. Thank you, Sherry. You just got yourself a spot on the wheel. I got to fix this. You just got your spot on the next Wheel of Friday. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Let's get this sized up right. Thank you so much, Sherry. Okay, so we're going to begin, tomorrow we're doing a special members only live. If you are a member of the channel, you will automatically see it. So tomorrow we are going to do two things. Tomorrow we're going to go live and we're going to go to the Chinese dollar store, because that's what I have been challenged to do. So here in Clearwater, Largo, Florida, there is the most, I shouldn't say Chinese, I should say the world's most unusual dollar store. So we're going to try to do that tomorrow. And we are also going to do a members only live on the latest on the Watts house, 2825 Saratoga Trail. I know you guys probably saw Plunder put out the court case with the current family that lives at 2825 Saratoga Trail. I have more info, and I also want to share some of my videos from when I went to the house and show you guys those and do like a Q&A type thing where you can ask me anything about that trip and those videos and, anything, I guess, Watts related. So tomorrow, for sure, we're going to be doing the Watts members only live. I'm not sure what time yet. But I will let you guys know. I got to coordinate. Dude, that house is nuts. And what this guy did, it's insane. So members only live, Watts tomorrow, and the world's most unusual dollar store. If I can't get signal at the dollar store, I'm going to have to video it, but I'm hoping we can do it live. Members only live. Yes. Yes. All right. So tomorrow, Sunday, April 28th, we're going to get this shiz going. So the most unusual dollar store trip is the 100K celebration. So we'll do that members only, and then eventually it will be released to the public. So you guys can all see me make an ass of myself in public. It should be a good time. Poon won't be able to sleep tonight. I know, right? All right, so let's get into day 11. Day 11 consists of them talking about Alex Cox's searches. And we're going to watch 2 detectives on cross-examination. Day 12 gets good. Day 12, we've got an embalmer. We've got friends from the LDS religion taking the stand. It is wed. Okay, wed. Okay, here we go. Everybody, put your chins in the air if you just don't care. Oh, I want to give a shout out to, I'm not sure if Miss Robin is here on this Saturday Live, but let's give her a shout out. She purchased a lightweight zip-up hoodie in the merch store just a couple of hours ago. Thank you so much for your support, Miss Robin. You are amazing. All right, now we got all that junk out of the way. This is when the people that get mad are saying, quit talking so much. Just get into it. Let's see if we can get captions on here somewhere.
Can we have the microphone, please?
Officer, if you would allow me to either call you Officer K or I'm going to mispronounce your name for the next 20, 25 minutes.
Officer K is okay.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Now, Officer, you took the liberty of, let me find this, going through talking about your report
Dang it.
about the emails between Mark Daybell and Tammy. Is that right?
Yes.
And Judge, I believe that was Exhibit 291. And if I could have 291.
Yes, we'll have the bailiff hand that to you or to the witness, Mr. Pryor.
Okay.
Which?
Just to me. And Judge, if I could have permission to just publish.
You may publish that.
All right, there we go. We'll put it up here. Your exhibitees are going to be the top left-hand corner.
And Officer, if you could tell me the date of that email.
10/13/2019.
Okay. And then that was obviously Dear Markey. That would be Tammy's son.
Yes.
Okay. And the very first sentence, it said, on Wednesday during the day, a lady pulled into the Price's driveway, grabbed their dog, drove off, right?
Yes.
And then she went on to talk about what transpired about that and about where they tried to locate where the lady lived. Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay. Now, from your investigation, were you able to determine where Regan Price lives?
Yes.
Where's Regan Price live?
Regan Price lives directly south of Chad Daybell's house.
Okay. And then that would be directly east of Joe Murray's house.
Correct. Yes.
So if we have if we can visualize this, we have Chad Daybell's property. And approximately how big is Chad Daybell's property? Do you know?
I'm not aware of that.
Okay. It's a more than an acre.
Yes.
Okay. And directly across the street from Chad Daybell's property is another house, correct?
Yes.
And then kitty corner to the south and to the west would be Joe Murray, right?
Kitty corner.
Yes.
And directly southeast of Chad's property would be Regan Price. Would that be fair?
Yes.
Okay. So 4 houses all kitty corner from each other. And this is more of a rural setting. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
And the houses are all on larger plots of property, correct?
Yes.
But the houses themselves are relatively close in terms of location. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
All of the houses on that particular corner, we heard on the 911, there was something about a flashing yellow light. And on that very corner, that's where all the 4 residences are located, pretty much on the corner of each of those, that intersection, right?
Karchi.
Okay. So
Is
relatively
that-
close together are these homes. That we've established that, right?
Yes.
Okay. So one of the close neighbors is this lady by the name of Regan Price, correct?
Yes.
And she talked about how somebody pulled into their driveway and grabbed their dog. Do you recall when that took place?
Well, in this email, she's writing it on the 13th about the night of the attempted shooting. So I'm assuming it was on the 9th.
Okay, so if you look at the very first line to her, she's writing this on the 13th to her son, which was a short time after the paintball incident. She says on Wednesday, during the day with Reagan outside. So can we presume that it was that Wednesday of that week?
Yes.
Okay. So at that point, somebody grabbed Reagan Price's dog, took off, stole the dog, and disappeared, correct?
Yes.
And then now she says on the same day, you look down below to the second
I wonder if they were
paragraph, right?
Morkies. God.
You see that?
Yep. Yes.
She was coming home from clogging. It was about 9:15 and she backed into the driveway. Okay. So the nose of her car was facing out of the driveway, correct?
Yes.
Now, what I'd like to know is, you've been out to the house, right?
Yes.
And how long of a driveway is that?
The front driveway, and I haven't measured it, but maybe
I can make it easier for you if we could do it in
Yeah.
terms of an analysis. Would you be able to park 3 cars back to back in that driveway and not have any of them sticking out into the road?
maybe 2.5 to 3. Yeah.
Okay, 2.5 to 3 cars, maybe.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So, and from your experience as a police officer, do you know the length of what the average automobile would be?
I'm not aware of that.
Okay. But if we took the size of an average automobile and we multiplied it times 2.5, that's how much space we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
And if you were looking at this bench in front of us, how many cars would you say were the jury sitting, how many cars could you push back to back in front of this bench?
Probably about 2.
Okay, so if we're asking about 2.5, would it be fair to say that the driveway was from the end of that bench to where this officer is?
Possibly.
Okay, so that's the length of the
Okay.
driveway. And at that point, from what I understand, according to this document to Mark, she was getting some items out of the back seat and realized someone was at the back of the car. So she backed her car in and someone was behind her car. That would be near the garage. Is that the way you're reading that?
Behind her car. Yes.
Okay, so someone was behind her car near the garage. She looked up thinking it was Dad or Garth to help her. Nope, it was a guy dressed in black with a ski mask on pointing a rifle at me. And she did say the word rifle, didn't she?
Yes.
Okay. Then she went on to talk about that she was in shock because what do you think you were doing? Then the next line was starting with then. Would you read that next line for me?
Then I noticed the rifle was actually a paintball gun. It had a hopper on top.
Okay. Now, you know what a hopper is, right?
Yes.
You've seen a hopper?
Yes.
You know a hopper is different than a rifle scope, right?
Yes.
And you know that, Judge,
I'm getting a new emoji for you guys right now. That's what I'm laughing about, not about this. I'm not cold-hearted.
So in any event, you know that a hopper is a little different than a rifle scope, right?
Yes.
And you know that a hopper is a large composite of some kind container, right?
It's a plastic container.
A big
Yes.
plastic container, right?
Yes.
And would you agree with me that it would be very difficult to confuse a hopper with a rifle scope, right?
I wouldn't agree with you on that if you were
Okay.
not sure what a rifle is with a scope on it or
Okay.
a paintball gun with a hopper.
Did you happen to go over the report of Coulter Cannon?
I did.
Did you happen to go over or discuss the case with Coulter Cannon?
A little bit. Yes.
Okay. Were you aware that when Coulter Cannon came up to the residence of Tammy and Chad Daybell, that he went in the house and looked at one of the Google searches that Tammy was performing prior to the police arriving? Do you remember that?
I was not aware of that.
Okay. Or did you happen to look at Tammy's email and searches on that computer to determine whether Tammy had looked at anything prior to the police arriving?
Not on her computer. No.
Okay. Were you aware that Officer Cannon walked up to the computer with Garth Daybell and Tammy Daybell and proceeded to look at pictures of paintball guns?
I was not aware of that.
Were you aware that during the Google search by Tammy Daybell, that she pointed to the actual paintball gun that she saw the gentleman holding that day?
I was not aware of that.
Okay, were you not aware of that because Coulter Cannon didn't include that information in his report when he, well, not in his first report, right? That wasn't included in his first report, was it?
I didn't read that in his report.
Right. You didn't read it in his supplemental report either when he chose to supplement the report, correct?
Correct.
Now, Judge, previously we had stipulated to the admission of Defense Exhibit 14.
Okay, has it been offered or admitted yet, Mr.
I'm going
Pryor?
to offer it now, Judge, and ask that it be admitted. It was agreed to by stipulation.
Has the state reviewed Exhibit 14?
We have, Your Honor, but if I can be reminded of exactly what it is.
It's the Google.
All right.
Searches, yes.
Well, let's do this.
It's the Wait, hold on. That was funny. Listen.
Read it in his supplemental report either when he chose to supplement the report, correct?
Correct.
Now, Judge, previously we had stipulated to the admission of Defense Exhibit 14.
Okay, has it been offered or admitted yet, Mr.
I'm
Pryor?
going to offer it now, Judge, and ask that it be admitted. It was agreed to by stipulation.
Has the state reviewed Exhibit 14?
We have, Your Honor, but if I can be reminded of exactly what it is.
It's the Google.
All right.
Searches.
It's the Google searches.
Yes.
Well, let's do this. I want to go ahead and that may take a moment. I think it's a logical breaking point.
What are they hiding? That was normal speed too, dude. I cannot handle that. So it's the Google searches. What was that all about? Can we utilize the HDMI, please? Lord have mercy. Okay, so they take this break and then we come back. Here we are. And he's getting the exhibits up. He is connected to HDMI for the searches.
Thank you, Mr. Bailiff. Please be seated.
Karchi. Something like that.
Okay, we're back on the record. The jurors have returned and are properly seated. I'll note the parties were able to review those exhibits and have offered, and at this time the court will admit Defense Exhibit 14 as well as Defendant's Exhibit 14A, both admitted. You can continue with the cross-examination, Mr. Pryor.
Judge, if we could put the monitor back up with what I was discussing, which I believe was Exhibit 291. Now, Officer, prior to taking our break, I think I was talking about the third paragraph down. And would you do me a favor and read the first two sentences of that?
Are you referring to the one where it says?
I think.
Okay. I think I was a bit in shock because I just said, what do you think you were doing? Then I noticed the rifle was actually a paintball gun. It had a hopper on top.
Then the next line says, the guy started pulling the trigger and I could just hear the clicking and whooshing sound of an empty paintball gun. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. He stayed there standing by the back of the car, just pulling the trigger while pointing the gun at me. For some reason, I just kept asking him what he thought he was doing. Now, she did say in the sentence, just pointing the gun at me. And we don't know whether she meant a gun or whether she meant paintball, correct? Because she identified it as a paintball, but she did use the gun on that sentence, correct?
Yes.
But we don't know whether that was a mistake or whether she just decided not to type the word paintball in, right?
Correct.
Right. Okay. And I just asked him at what point I was actually more annoyed than scared because he was standing between me and the door and he didn't step toward me or even say anything. Okay. So from what I understand, when she was backing up then, the front of the door was really right next to the garage, right?
If I remember right, yes, it's a little sidewalk up to the garage or to the main door.
And that sidewalk's probably less than 5 feet, correct?
I didn't testify to that.
It's a short sidewalk.
Okay.
Though. Well, not okay.
I can't testify to that.
Objection, Your Honor. Counsel's adding facts, not in evidence.
That's sustained. And in addition, please don't talk at the same time as each other, Mr. Pryor. Wait for a concluded answer before you ask any question.
Yeah.
Would you agree that it's a short sidewalk from the gate into the yard to the front door?
It is a short sidewalk, but I can't testify to how long it is.
Okay, that's okay. Now, from this description, this person was standing between the door and the garage at the very back of Tammy's, where Tammy's car was backed in, correct?
Yes.
So in other words, that was something that was at relatively close range. Would you agree with me?
Yes.
And in that sense, being at such close range, you'd probably get a pretty good look at what type of instrument was being pointed at you. Would you agree with me in that regard?
Objection, Your Honor. Calls for speculation.
Overruled.
Would you agree with me in that regard? When it's something that close to you and you're looking at it, you'd be reasonably certain about what you're looking at, correct?
It was in the daylight.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Now, we can all agree that the manufacturers of paintball guns make them in various shapes and sizes, correct?
Yes.
And the manufacturers of these guns get some benefit by making some of these guns look similar to weapons, right? Real weapons.
Yes.
And they can make them quite authentic at times, correct?
They can be, yes.
Right. But there is one thing that distinguishes a paintball gun between a real gun, and that is a hopper, correct?
Like you just mentioned before, the manufacturers are coming out with new guns. So yes, a hopper is one, but there's many other ways that paintballs can fit into a rifle without a hopper.
Okay. Okay. So in other words, unless we actually had this weapon in hand, we really don't know which one it is. Would that be fair?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Now, please correct me if I'm making a mistake, but without a suppressor, a AR-15 is a very, very loud gun, isn't it?
Yes.
And even with a suppressor, an AR-15 is not silent. It still makes a pretty loud noise, doesn't it?
It depends what kind of ammunition you're using.
Okay. Well, what kind of ammunition was in this gun?
That I don't know.
Well, you don't even know if it was a gun, do you?
I know it was a paintball gun or a rifle that she referred to.
Okay. Okay. But depending on the ammunition, there's still going to be a loud noise, right?
Are you asking with the suppressor on or off?
With the suppressor on, there's still going to be a noise, right?
There will be a noise, but not as loud depending on what
Okay.
ammunition you're using.
Okay. And when you're just several feet from the front door of a house with Garth Daybell and Chad Daybell inside the house, you would think they would have heard a gun. If even with a suppressor, you think they would have heard the rifle shoot, right?
Again, it depends on what ammunition is
Okay.
being shot through the gun.
But what we do know, and what we're certain of, is that when a paintball gun is shot, they can't change the fact that there's a whooshing noise, can they?
There's a popping noise with the clicking,
And a whooshing noise.
whooshing and popping.
Right. Okay. Okay. So when Tammy Daybell in this report talks about the whooshing noise that she heard, sounds like she's describing the whooshing noise from a paintball gun.
Objection, Your Honor. Move to strike. Counsel's testifying.
Sustained.
Did it sound from this email that Tammy Daybell's describing the whooshing noise of a paintball gun?
She said she heard a clicking and whooshing.
Okay. Okay. Now, we move further down and we talk about where it says the thought crossed my mind to hit him with my clogging shoes. Looked toward the house and yelled, Chad. They ran off around the north side of the house. You see that?
Yes.
Got Dad and Garth. They looked outside, couldn't find him, called the police, reported it. Then she uses the term, they suspect it was a bipolar teenager who lives down the street and walks around a lot, but Matt Price has an even better theory, right?
Yes.
Okay. So it's really unclear who they say they suspect it was a bipolar teenager. They don't know if we're talking about the police told them or whether it was Chad and Garth said it was a bipolar teenager. Is that fair?
That's fair.
Okay. So when Officer Coulter was on the stand, I had spoken to him about the fact that in his report, he didn't mention anything about a bipolar teenager running around the neighborhood harassing people. Were you aware of that at the time of this offense?
Objection, Your Honor. Calls for speculation.
Overruled.
Were you aware of the fact that there was a bipolar teenager running around the neighborhood? Maybe I want to be careful with my words. Contacting the people in these neighborhoods?
I was not.
Okay. And
Bipolar teen.
are you aware whether or not you ever discussed that with Officer Coulter?
I can't recall if I did or not.
Okay. Did you discuss that with any of the other officers who were there at the time of this paintball incident about this bipolar teenager?
I did not.
Okay. Then we go on and we talk about his theory, and his theory is that the crazy dog lady brought her husband back to steal the dog again. They had parked on the road and had snuck through the cow fields, and he was going to cut through our front yard. So that's a couple of things. Parked on the road, cut through the cow fields. Is that the Daybell's cow fields?
I can't testify if that's what she's referring to, because
Okay.
there are a couple others out there.
Yeah, but there are cow fields next door to the Daybells. The Daybells have a pasture behind their property as well, correct?
Yes.
And then they said they were going to cut through our front yard. So that would mean Chad and Tammy's front yard, correct?
Yes.
I did mega for
When I pulled up and startled
fortune
him,
teller.
he didn't know what to do. So he panicked and tried to menace me with
Chrissy
his not
Snow.
real gun. So at that point, she's pretty
funny.
clear that she knows it's a not real gun. Would you disagree with that?
Objection, Your Honor. Calls for speculation as to what Tammy knew.
Sustained.
Well, she put in a,
Objection, Your Honor. Narrative.
Yeah, Ms. Pryor, I ruled on it.
Okay.
So I'll ask you a different question.
Narrative.
so after the line that says it was a not real gun and then ran off back across the field, which would explain why he ran across the side of the house. I never heard a car and we couldn't find anywhere. You see that?
Yes.
And then she wrote, it's actually a pretty good theory. You see that?
Yes.
Did you guys interview Regan Price?
We spoke with Regan Price. Yes.
Okay. Did you talk to Matt Price?
Yes.
Okay. And did they confirm the fact that someone stole their dog around the close in time to this occurrence?
I'd have to go back to my report. I know we spoke with them after this incident, quite a ways after this.
Okay. But you do know that this incident with the dog, I believe it occurred on the same day that the paintball gun took place. Is that right?
Yes,
And the issues about the bipolar teenager running around the neighborhood, that was close in time as well, correct?
that was Matt's theory. Yes.
Okay. And then finally, honestly, would you read the word honestly down to the end of the paragraph?
Honestly, I just kept wondering what kind of person walks around with a ski mask on, carrying an empty paintball gun. Bipolar doesn't mean you want to hurt people, so I'm leaning more towards Matt's theory. The guy didn't try to rob me or even really hurt me. On Thursday night, though, I didn't go to Zumba because I quite understandably did not want to be out after dark alone.
So in this particular incident, it's saying that I'm leaning towards Matt's theory. The guy didn't try to rob me, or the guy didn't try to hurt me. So she wasn't threatened by someone holding a paintball gun like a rifle, right?
Objection, Your Honor. Calls for speculation and mischaracterizes this email.
Sustained.
And Judge, I need to go back to I'd like to go back to 232B, and I'd like to republish that for the jury, Judge.
Clocks. Oh my God.
All right, we'll have the bailiff provide that to you, Mr. Pryor.
Oh man. Yeah, he said it was a short sidewalk.
And Judge, if we could just wait till I get it brought up.
Isn't it great, Olive? That's why I was laughing when I was making it. I was like, straight out of Holland. Oh my God. Straight out of freaking Holland. You have to refresh. Oh man.
I think I'm ready, Judge. Let's hope.
All right, you may.
It's
It said chud.
Hi, I need to report something.
Okay, go ahead. What's the address?
Okay, it's 202 North, 1900 East, the corner with the blinking yellow light on Salem Highway.
Is it a suspicious person?
Yes.
Okay, what was he wearing?
He was all dressed in black and he had a ski mask on.
And he said the blinking light now is where you saw him.
No, he's gone now because I pulled up into our driveway and I was getting stuff out of the backseat of my car and suddenly he was there and he had a paintball gun and he was
Okay.
and like he was going to shoot at me. And I kept asking him what he was doing because I could tell it was a paintball thing.
Okay.
And then he just kept doing it, so I yelled for my husband and then he took off running around the back of my house.
Okay, give me just 1 minute. Stay on the line with me.
Okay.
October 9, 2019, 21 hours, 50 minutes, 28 seconds.
And that was North 1900.
Yes.
October 9, 2019, 21 hours, 50 minutes, 43 seconds.
In what direction he was going?
He went behind my house and it's so dark out here and I just went in the house and got my husband and son and then they went out and looked and he was long gone by then.
Okay.
He
But
went
was on
behind
the
their
north
house.
side of my house is where he went to get away.
Okay.
He didn't say anything or he just kept like he was holding the gun like he was, had a rifle and just shooting at me. So, but nothing came out of the gun either, so I don't think it was loaded.
Okay, and what is your name?
My name is Tammy Daybell.
Okay, I will pass your information on to my deputies. We actually just had a previous call about this individual, so they're out in the area looking now.
Okay, yeah, I think it was my son-in-law who lives diagonal from us that called you guys already.
Oh,
So I
okay.
just wanted to make sure it got reported. So
Let's see. And what's your son-in-law's name?
Joseph Murray.
Okay, yep, it was him.
Okay.
So, all right, I have a deputy that will be out at your home here shortly.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Isn't that sad though, hearing her voice? She had no clue what was going on. So the prosecution is trying to say that was Alex Cox that was going to shoot her, but his gun didn't work right because of the weather. It was too cold or something based on his Google searches. So, but I think Chud convinced her that that was a paintball gun so she wouldn't be scared or think anything was up. And aren't those clogs the cutest, little, most precious things? They're so cute. You have a wedding later? Get him a card that says, "Ha ha, suckers."
Wake up.
Have a good time, Carchay. Yeah, the paintballs hurt too, Mega. They do.
I'm also going to need 232.
Into the microphone, please, Mr. Pryor.
I'm also going to need 232A at some point, but I'd like to discuss 232B. You listened carefully to the 911 call from Tammy Daybell. Is that right?
Yes.
Now, she said paintball a number of times during that 911 call, correct?
A couple times, yes.
And then at the end, she said, holding the gun like he was holding a rifle. She never said he was holding a rifle, did she?
I think you just stated it. He was holding a gun like the rifle.
She never said she was holding a rifle, did she?
Objection, Your Honor. The audio speaks for itself.
Sustained.
Okay. There was no discussion about a specific rifle. Was it not the manner in which the gun was being held? That was what we heard?
There's no specific rifle that she named, no.
Okay.
There was no specific rifle that she named.
Okay. Well, she didn't even say it was a rifle, did she?
She said a gun and a rifle.
Well, she said a gun holding like a rifle. Isn't that what she said?
Objection, Your Honor. Again, the audio speaks for itself.
Sustained.
Judge, I should be allowed to go into whether or not the manner in which.
Then replay that section, Mr. Pryor,
Okay.
if you want to make it clear, but you just keep asking on the audio we just listened to is improper.
Bailiff, could I have 232 again, please?
Improper. F paintballing. That shit sucks, man.
I think I want A.
I don't want to get hit with those damn things.
So, Judge, again, we'll ask to publish 232A again.
I believe we just published 232B.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G. We're learning our alphabet with
excuse me.
Pryor.
Okay.
I apologize. I think I'm ready, Judge.
Go ahead.
Seconds.
Vermont County Sheriff's Office.
Hi, I need to report something.
Okay, go ahead. What's the address?
Okay, at 202 North, 1900 East, the corner with the blinking yellow light on Salem Highway.
Is it a suspicious person?
Yes.
Okay, what was he wearing?
He was all dressed in black and he had a ski mask on.
And he's at the blinking light now.
I wonder if that was edited. Every time I hear this, I wonder, because they go, is it a suspicious person? And she goes, yes. And then all of a sudden it's, what was he wearing? How did the operator know it was a damn guy? Seems like they cut something out of that. Maybe not, though. I just thought it always stood out to me every time I hear it.
Now is where you saw him.
Heard it.
No, he's gone now because I pulled up into our driveway and I was getting stuff out of the backseat of my car and suddenly he was there and he had a.
We're going to skip that again. We just heard that.
There.
Yeah,
Here we go.
I'm not 100% sure on that, so I guess I can't testify truly on that.
Okay. Okay. But it was
Okay.
It was clearly after 9:30 though.
Objection, Your Honor. The officer just said he couldn't testify to that.
Sustained.
Okay. Okay. Judge, I'd like to put up Exhibit 15 for publication.
You may publish.
I'm ready, Judge, whenever the clerk is.
Exhibit E. Doesn't it seem cut?
I'm showing it,
You're
Judge.
probably right,
I'm
Karchi.
not sure what.
All right, we'll see if we could get someone to maybe take a look at.
Oh, I think we're there. I just had to wiggle a little. I had to wiggle the cords a little bit.
Oh, for God's sakes. We're almost there. I just had to wiggle it a little bit. Pryor says he's got to wiggle it. Wiggle that HDMI just a little bit.
I'm showing it, Judge. I'm not sure what.
All right, we'll see if we could get someone to maybe take a look at.
Oh, I think we're there.
Okay.
I just had to wiggle a little. I had to wiggle the cords a little bit.
Blech.
Okay. So can you see that from your screen, officer?
Yes.
Okay. And I would represent to you that this was off of Tammy Daybell's account. stipulated by the parties.
Chad is turning
as
into
a
a
retrieval of her Google searches.
the dark side of the
Can
moon.
you read the very first one?
Search for a paintball gun,
Okay,
paintball
and then
guns.
we talked about the UTC and well, I guess I suggested it was 6 hours. You didn't really specify, but would you read the date of when that was done, that Google search was done?
October 10th, 2019.
Okay, October 10th, 2019. And the time on that, the UTC time would be what?
If it is 6 hours, it would be 9:29.
On the 18th.
Correct.
Okay.
On the 10th.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry.
Oh my God,
All right.
Prior.
So the day that this incident took place was what?
The HD.
October 9th.
Okay. And the UTC, if it goes back 6 hours from AM at 3:29 AM on the 10th, going back 6 hours, wouldn't that put us at 9:30 on the 9th?
Yes.
Okay. So at well, actually, let's
Well,
be clear, 9:29 on the 9th, right?
Yes.
Okay. So at 9:29 on the 9th of October, there was a Google search by Tammy Daybell searching out paintball guns, correct?
Correct.
Now, I don't remember seeing a discussion with Officer Coulter in I guess it was his second report, where he talked about that Tammy Daybell did a Google search on paintball guns.
Objection, Your Honor. Counsel's testifying.
Did you see that?
Wait. Objection pending. It's sustained.
Did you see a reference in Officer Coulter's second report about Google searches at 9:29 on the 9th of October?
No.
Okay, well, your previous testimony was that Tammy Daybell made a 911 call sometime 9:41 is what you recalled. But the Google search occurred at 9:29. Is that what you see?
Yes.
So what we can gather from that is that Tammy Daybell, after this incident, did a search of paintball guns and then 10 minutes later called 911, right?
Yes.
Okay, do you remember what the date of the Facebook posting was when she posted that Facebook?
I do not recall that date.
Okay. And then let's move down a little bit. The next one.
Search for an airsoft guns,
And again, the time.
October 10th, 2019 at 3:29.
So basically, if we go back to UTC time, we're back at around 9:30 again, right?
Yes.
So her Google searches at that point, and just for everybody's edification, we don't need to go down the other ones because they're not relevant to this. But the first one was a paintball gun search at 9:29, right?
Yes.
Then she looked for an airsoft gun search at 9:29, right?
Yes.
Did she ever look for a rifle?
She did not.
Did she ever look at any other shotgun?
She did not.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Bailey. Nobody was there from your agency at the time of this incident with Tammy Daybell and this person. Is that correct? That she was allegedly shot at?
We responded to that.
But nobody was there when it occurred.
Correct.
And in fact, Chad wasn't there either, right?
Objection, Your Honor. Calls for speculation.
Sustained.
Well, you know from the report that Tammy talked about Chad and Garth coming out afterwards, correct?
Yes.
And there's no indication at the time of this occurrence that there was anybody other than a masked man and Tammy Daybell. Is that right?
And in Tammy's email, Chad and Garth.
Well, Chad and Garth were inside the house, right?
Yes.
Okay. So at the time of this alleged shooting, the two people would be a masked man and Tammy Daybell. Would that be fair?
Outside of the residence, yes.
Okay. So the best person to determine what type of instrument this was would be one of the people who was there at the time, right?
Objection, Your Honor. Calls for speculation.
Overruled.
Your Honor, may I word aye or nay of objection?
No, he said
Well,
overruled.
just the way that question was phrased, I'm overruling that. It was just of the two. Go ahead and re-ask the question, Mr. Pryor.
The best person to determine what type of instrument that was would have been Tammy Daybell, correct?
One of the-
Objection, Your Honor.
Grounds.
It calls for speculation. May I have word aye or nay of objection?
Go ahead.
Detective Kaikamanu, did you ever have an opportunity to speak with
Why
Tammy
does she
Daybell?
get to do this?
No.
Did you ever determine her knowledge of firearms?
No.
Do you know her experience with paintball guns?
No.
Do you know her experience with firearms?
Hey,
No.
Shell.
So do you know if she'd be able to tell the difference?
No.
Your Honor, I'd object to that. It calls for speculation.
All right, well, I am going to overrule it on the speculation objection, but of course you'll be able to redirect Ms. Blake.
Yeah. So again, you
Ha ha.
actually corrected me. There are two people there that would know what type of instrument that would do. Two people that would be the best people to identify what kind of instrument, correct?
Correct. One of the two.
Yeah, the person in the ski mask would be one. We don't know who that was, right?
Correct.
And Tammy Daybell.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Officer, Judge, I'd like to now go through on the Elmo Exhibit 107, if I could.
You may.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Getting out the Elmo.
We'll allow that to be published. It's already been admitted.
And obviously, during your talk with the prosecuting attorney, this has already been admitted. And you went through that. You recall that, right?
Yes.
Now, as part of your examination, you provided records from Fremont County Sportsman's Club, right?
Yes.
And you did the start date of sometime of 10/16. Is that right? Is that what you recall?
The start date of,
Of when the documents that you provided to the prosecuting attorney, the first entry on there, it looks to be about 10/16. Am I mistaken?
I'd have to relook at those.
Okay, Judge, can we show this to the witness to refresh his recollection? When you're done, just hand it back. Thank you, sir.
Yes.
And Your Honor, may the state know what's being shown to the witness?
Which exhibit did you just
It's
reference?
their exhibit of the entries to the visits to the sportsman's, I don't want to misstate the name of the organization, Sportsman's Gun Club.
Thank you.
That is exhibit 390A. I'm sorry, 396A.
And this talked a little bit about the gun and the distance and everything.
All right, we're going to skip ahead to the next witness. Is going to be more detective. And then we're going to move on to day 12, which is juicy. So don't go nowhere. Hello, Flo. Hey, Helen, and everybody else coming in. Shell, good to see y'all.
Yes.
And is there
All right, here we go.
Thank you. Please be seated. All right, we can have the jurors brought in, please. What's being published there, counsel?
It's the same as before. I think it's the officer's report, exhibit number 14. We're just going through the same as we did previously.
Okay, thank you. Exhibit 14 is
Your Honor.
being published to the jurors. That's okay.
So, officer, again, in your report, you noted that these were relevant to your investigation. They're emails from Tammy's email account from someone named Julie Rowe. Is that right?
Oh, Lord.
Yes.
And it looks like the emails are to Tammy. And it says something about support springcreekbooks.com, March 12, 2019. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay, so if you would be so kind as to just read from Chad down to Julie for me.
Chad, I met with the state president last night and he has requested we stop publishing all my books. I told him I do not have the rights to the books and that my publisher has those rights. He asked me to contact you to request that we stop publishing. He has asked me to copy him on this email and send him your reply.
Why did she
Yeah.
have to stop publishing?
He also said he is going to contact your stake president, Julie.
Okay.
What was that all
So
about?
do you know what a stake president is?
I believe the stake president is over the stake of the wards.
Okay, and is that,
She
and
turned
I'm
him in or
not familiar
something?
with this, but does that mean there's a number of wards or groups that are like neighborhoods and the stake president overlooks a number of these wards? Is that what it is?
From my understanding, yes.
Okay, do you know who the stake president was in this email?
I do not.
But it appears that they're telling Julie Rowe. You know who Julie Rowe is?
Throughout the investigation, her name came up and also known as a publisher or a book writer.
And she was someone who put on presentations all over the Arizona, Utah, Idaho area about
I interviewed
preparedness
Julie
issues,
Rowe.
right?
It's on my
Yes.
channel,
And she published
guys.
books about that as well, right?
Yes.
And is there anything in the indication of your review of the emails why a stake president would inject himself into the publishing of books?
I'm not sure on that.
And then and again, told Julie Rowe that her stake president is going to contact Chad's stake president,
Correct.
right? Correct?
Correct.
Okay. But there's nothing in the other emails that you had to show why a couple of stake presidents would interfere with Chad Daybell publishing his books?
I do not.
Okay. All right. Thank you. The next one we're talking about is from Tammy to Mark, and Mark again is Tammy's son, Mark, right?
Yes.
That's the youngest son, if I remember right.
Yes.
And the date of this email is March 31st of 2019, correct?
Yes.
And it's Tammy writing to her son, Mark. And I'll read. I've got Dad and Garth doing a C to 5K, and then in parentheses, couch to 5K. So I would you interpret that to mean that the C would mean couch and the number 2 would mean 2, like TO to 5K? Is that how you would interpret that?
Yes.
And if I understand that correctly, what that would mean is that you're starting from the very beginning of your training, and you may be a couch potato, right?
You could say that. Yes.
Yeah. And you're starting from the very start of something, and you're going to try to do a 5K, right?
Yes.
And it says with me, right?
Yes.
So that would imply on March 31st of 2019, we had 3 couch potatoes at the Daybell house.
Objection, Your Honor. Calls for speculation and misstates
Couch
the email.
Sustained.
How do you interpret that?
That they just want to start working out and getting into shape.
Okay, from couch potato to 5K, right?
Objection, Your Honor. Again, misstates the evidence. Counsel's testifying. Move to strike.
Sustained. Stricken.
Okay. And then it goes on to say, we've done the first week twice because quite frankly, I didn't feel ready to move on to the second week. But it should be good for us. Okay, good for me. I have to say, I admire you for running track. Starting from nothing is not easy. Now, when you see the term starting from nothing is not easy, it's not particular whether we're talking about Tammy starting from nothing or whether it's Mark starting from nothing, right?
Correct.
It's unclear there, correct?
Correct.
But then you put in there not the full email. Is there further explanation in there that maybe explains who we're talking about, who's starting from nothing on this couch potato issue?
No, there is not.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you for that. And then we'll move on. And it's from Tammy to Mark again on April 14, 2019. I tripped over the duck gate on Saturday and landed hard on my right hand. And the bucket of eggs I was carrying, it hurt so bad I just lay in the driveway and cried.
Oh.
And I got up, cleaned up the egg mess with my left hand and went in the house to find Dad. Luckily, I seemed to have only bruised it. Of course, Dad blessed it, so it may have been worse.
Oh my God. Dad blessed
And there's
it.
nothing,
He probably
what's the
caused
evidentiary
it.
issue of this?
So during the during the investigation, it was said that Tammy had a hurt wrist,
Right.
and that she was taking medication for it. So this goes back to, instead of a possible fainting spell, she had tripped over the duck gate and
Okay.
fell and hurt her wrist. So that was relevant to me putting this in my report.
Okay, thank you. And again, that's not the full email that you provided to us today, right?
It was not.
Okay, and was there any further explanation that as to what caused Tammy to trip?
She tripped over a bucket.
Okay, did she trip because she had a dizzy spell? Did she trip because she had a seizure?
Well, this says I tripped over a duck gate. So she
Okay.
had tripped over a duck gate, causing her to fall.
Okay.
I
so
thought
we
he
don't
said
know if it
nut
was just
gate.
she ran into the duck gate or she had some sort of medical condition that caused her to trip over the duck gate though, right?
Objection, Your Honor. Calls for speculation. The email speaks for itself and asked and answered.
Sustained.
You don't know all of the facts behind what centered around the reason for the trip over the duck gate. Would that be fair?
Objection, Your Honor. Calls for speculation. Again, the message speaks for itself.
I'm not asking him to speculate. I'm just asking whether it was explained, Judge.
Overruled.
Get her, Pryor.
In this email, I would just take it as she tripped over something.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Thank you. And then lastly, from Tammy to Mark on April 28th, Dad is in Houston and won't be back until Monday night. So you'll just have to get to talk to me tomorrow. And what's the significance of that?
So on this one, this correlates with some of our other records showing that Chad was in Houston. And that Tammy was home alone.
Next one was something about, oops. And I don't see,
Was she being drugged, do you think?
something that identifies the date, but it was something about a zone conference. Do you know what that was about?
Poisoned?
I am not sure on that.
Okay. And then does it seem like your tapeworm medicine worked? Who's talking to who there? Do you know?
I would believe Tammy is emailing and talking with Mark on this one.
Tapeworm.
Okay. So it's Tammy who's suggesting that there was some tapeworm incident. She was having some sort of malady.
Correct. This might be a continuation of the page before.
Okay.
Possibly.
And the page before would have been this malady with the tapeworm would have been on the 28th of 2019. Would that be fair?
Correct. Yes.
Thank you for clearing that up. Okay. And then she goes on, I guess I should ask you, is that Tammy who said, I haven't slept well since Dad has been gone. I'm hoping to sleep well tonight.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Then we're going to June 30th of 2019. Is that right?
Yes.
And then let me read this and then I'll talk to you a little bit about that. Another adventure we had this week involves a raccoon. Last year we had skunks. This year a raccoon. We thought stray cats were getting into the cat food, but nope. Garth saw it one night and it was a raccoon. We borrowed a little trap from Matt Price, but when Garth went out to check it that night, the raccoon ran up the tree by the trap. It was huge. No way it was going to fit in the trap. It was larger than Chase and had really long teeth. Garth kept his flashlight on it and called us in the house.
That wasn't a
Dad got
raccoon.
his
That was
gun.
Lori
He
Vallow.
shot it out of the tree, then shot it again as it tried to run across the yard. We now have a raccoon buried in the compost heap. Something else got into a cat food a couple of nights ago, so we borrowed a larger trap from Matt. We didn't catch anything last night, so we'll see if we get anything tonight. If we do catch anything, Matt asked us not to shoot it because he has a friend who will use whatever we catch to train dogs. Joel I think that's Nickel, told me they've got a couple of raccoons and skunks they've been trying to trap, and some coyotes have been eating chickens at houses over by Jordan Graham's house. In all, it's been a crazy year with wildlife.
Can't with these
Do you
people.
see that?
Yes.
And could you identify the date when they're having this crazy year with wildlife?
June 30th, 2019.
Okay, and the
They're going to use it
the
to
allegation
train
with
dogs.
Chad Daybell is that there was an email that the prosecutor has alleged may have a different meaning, but that was September 30th of 2019, correct? September of
I
2019,
can't
I'm sorry.
stand these people.
Yes, I'm unaware of what email you're referring
Okay,
to.
well, would it be fair that the allegations are that they discovered JJ and Tylee's body and that they are presuming as part of your investigation that they were buried in Mr. Daybell's property in September of 2019?
Yes.
Okay, and there was some email by Chad Daybell that made mention of a raccoon. Do you recall that?
Objection, Your Honor, misstates the evidence.
Same.
So from what I gather, the allegations about the children being buried on Chad Daybell's property was the same year as this email as well, correct?
Yes.
And we're on June 30th of 2019, and the allegations against Mr. Daybell relate to around sometime in September of 2019, correct?
Yes.
So 2.5, 3 months later, there's at least two references about raccoons. Would that be fair?
Yes.
Okay. And there's a reference that they buried this raccoon in a compost heap. Where's the compost heap on Mr. Daybell's property? Do you know?
I'm not sure about
Okay.
that.
All right. And then we go on to July 7th of 2019, right?
Yes.
Here is the second raccoon. The first one was shot. Garth said this one is smaller than the first one. I like how the kittens are looking at him too. Okay. And that's from March 7th. And that's also relating to this raccoon issue. Would that be fair?
Yes.
Okay. And then we have a picture. Dad has lost a lot of weight. He just doesn't seem to eat much anymore, and he is exercising.
Oh my
You
God.
see that, right?
Yes.
Above that is a trap.
Chris Watts.
Can you explain? Does that
anyone?
look like a trap?
Yes.
And somewhere in the back top of the picture, it looks like there's some sort of raccoon in it. Is that what you see?
That's what I'm trying to see. I
Okay.
see the kittens there.
I do. Okay. And the previous motion made mention of Tammy saying, here's a picture of the second raccoon. It's a smaller one. So
Would you like me to point it out?
you did find it? Go ahead if you.
So it's kind of hard to tell. The raccoon is right there.
Okay. Is it, officer, is that raccoon in the trap?
I believe so.
Okay. Okay. Then we go down and we have a picture of Chad and Tammy, right?
Yes.
And again, not the full email, but your perception is that there's nothing there that was relevant to this investigation, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then does that appear to be the side of the house?
Appears to be the back of the house, I believe.
Okay. And from the email, that would be a picture of July 7th of 2019.
I'd have to look at the first page. Yes.
Okay, thank you. August 4th of 2019. Dad is in Arizona. He's speaking to a small group on Sunday night, and at a girls' camp on Monday night. He flies home on Tuesday, right?
Streamlabs
Yes.
just
And
threw
that had
up.
reference to the August 4th meeting with Melanie Gibb and Lori Vallow and all of the ladies who met Sunday at a girls' meeting at Lori Vallow's house. Is that what that was about?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, okay. But that's not the full email. But again, you determined there wasn't any relevance to anything else. Would that be fair?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Then we go on again, and we talk about from Tammy to Mark, again, Tammy Daybell to Mark on September 15th of 2019, right?
Yes.
And this was about a month before Tammy passed away. Would that be fair?
Close to. Yes.
Okay. And she says, this was taken on Saturday. Joe planted potatoes in his garden. I had been sick in bed all day with a really bad cold, but I put on a hat and went over to pose for this picture, so it looks like I'm really a real Idahoan. But I went right back to bed after we took it. I'm still sick today, and my nose won't stop running. I will go to work tomorrow, though, because I am helping with testing, and getting sub work would be more trouble than it was worth, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then there's some mention of continue whining. I burned my arm today when taking some rolls out of the oven, right?
Yes.
And the relevance of this is that it was just mentioning that 3 weeks before 3 weeks before Tammy passed away, she was sick for one day and basically was sick the entire next day and just got up and made herself put on a good face and made herself and go back to work, right?
Yeah.
Objection, Your Honor. Counsel's testifying. I don't hear a question there.
Abstain.
She wasn't feeling well that day, right?
Correct.
It appears that she was sick the following day, right?
Yes.
She spent a significant amount of time in bed,
Yes.
and she put on the courage to go to work on Monday, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then the one, your mom came to visit us Friday night and Saturday morning. Under orders from Grandma Cooper, I'll let her tell the story. What's the relevance of that?
So the relevance to that is from Ron Douglas to Mark, which
Okay.
Ron Douglas is Mark's grandpa.
Okay,
Through our investigation, Tammy did not drive very far alone. And so it was important enough for Ron, the grandpa, to email Mark and say, hey, your mom came to visit us, which they live in Utah, which is 3.5 hours away. And she drove all by herself.
okay. And this was October 6th of 2019, right?
Correct.
Wow. These
And
people
you
are
were
so
aware that
sheltered.
the reason
man.
Tammy Daybell
These
didn't
women.
drive by herself is because of some medical concerns about her balance. And
Objection, Your Honor. Counsel's testifying. Facts, not in evidence. Move to strike.
Abstain.
are you aware that the reason Tammy Daybell didn't drive is because of some medical concerns she had for herself?
No, I am not.
Okay.
Yeah, shut up, Pryor. There's no proof of that.
I went down to Springfield by myself, October 6th. I drove there by myself and then drove home by myself. I'm a big girl now. I can tell you more about this in a bit, right?
I'm a big
Yes.
girl
So-
now.
By your indications, you're suggesting on October 6th, 13 days before her death, 12 days before her death, that she was able to drive. Is that what this is about?
That's what she's emailing Mark. Yes.
And was there any indication that prior to that time she didn't drive or that she was concerned about driving?
Long distances. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Okay. And this again touches on I think we talked about this previously about the Wednesday during the day with Reagan Price and the person who took her dog. And that leads into what we originally started with. Would that be fair?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And then there's one final email that talks about Matt Price sending audiobooks for Tammy to listen to, right?
Yes.
And that was for her trip?
Tammy sent those, I believe, to Matt Price with codes to get into the audio book.
That's right. I'm sorry. You're right. Okay. Thank you.
We're almost to day 12, guys. I know
And
this
if I could just
wasn't
have a
that
minute, Judge, thank
exciting.
You may.
I think they end up taking a break and then let's see. I think that's pretty much it.
And we'll make sure to retrieve exhibits. I'll have a brief sidebar with
Yep. Okay, so now we're going to move into day 12. Dun da da da. Look at that. Woo! What a easy, smooth transition. We got flung right into the next one. So this is day 12. The first witness. You guys are going to love this one. This is going to be Steve Schultz. He is an embalmer. He's an embalmer, and he went and retrieved Tammy's body. Dude, these people, these witnesses, cray cray. Little bit cray cray. All right, here we go.
there is a order in this case prohibiting witnesses from viewing trial testimony
Steve
before
Schultz.
they testify. I'll note that the trial is being live streamed and also open for public attendance. Mr. Schultz, have you observed or viewed any of the trial testimony in the case?
I've not viewed anything.
Okay. And have you discussed with anyone else the testimony they've given in the case?
No.
Okay. Thank you for that affirmation. Mr. Wixom, you can begin your direct.
Thank you, Your Honor. Excuse me. Good morning, Mr. Schultz. Good morning. Could you please state and spell your full name for the record?
It's Stephen R. Schultz. Stephen, Steven, R. Schultz.
Thank you. And where do you live?
Springville, Utah.
And are you currently retired?
Yes, I am.
When did you retire?
I retired in 2022. Correct. Yeah.
It was only
And
2 years
prior to
ago,
retiring,
dude.
what is it that you did for a living?
I worked for 25 years with the state of Utah in the Child Support Enforcement Division. And,
Can you imagine?
for the last, well, from 2010 to 2022, I worked for 2 separate mortuaries in Springville.
The dude went from collecting child support enforcement, to working at mortuaries and embalming people. Make it make sense, Utah.
And what did you do for the mortuaries?
I was a funeral director, also an embalmer, and
Did you do that for the entire
yes,
approximate 12 years?
yes,
And I want to ask, do you know Chad Daybell?
I do.
How do you know him?
Chad and I were neighbors from when we moved into the ward or into the neighborhood. That was in 2006. I'd purchased my parents' home, who passed away, and Chad lived 2 doors down from me.
And when you said neighborhood, is that in Springville?
Yes, in Springville.
So approximately how many years did you live as neighbors with Mr. Daybell?
Until they left for Idaho, I believe it was 2015, at the end of the school year.
Approximately 9 years?
Yeah.
And what about the rest of his family? Did you know his wife, Tammy?
I did, yes.
And what about his children?
Yes,
How well would you say that you knew the family?
very well. We were neighbors. We attended the same church together. We had many conversations and worked together, and both in the funeral industry, as well as just basic good neighbors.
Would you consider yourself friends?
Yes.
Friendly neighbors.
You just mentioned that you worked together in the industry. What work did Chad do that you're referring to?
Chad worked for I believe both Springville and Spanish Fork cemeteries. He was the sexton.
And could you just briefly explain what did he do as a sexton? What was his role?
As a sexton, he would take care of the cemetery. He would basically assist us in the funerals when we arrived for a graveside service. He would open and close the graves.
Ugh.
Yeah, and so there was a lot of free time that we had to talk and a lot of share stories and stuff while the funeral burial was going on.
Thank you. And I want to draw your attention back to October 19th of 2019. Did you learn of the passing of Tammy Daybell?
I did.
How did you learn that?
The first I'd heard is that Jason Gwilliam, a neighbor, contacted me and said that Tammy had passed away. And that's the first I'd heard of it. That was on a Saturday.
Did you later hear from Chad Daybell that
I
day?
did, yes. A few hours later, he called me and wanted to know if I would be willing to bring Tammy back home to Springville and take care of the services down here. And I said, I'd be honored to.
Why did you feel that way?
Because this is a good family. The Daybells were a solid rock in our community. They in our exact neighborhood, there were 5 members of the same family in that vicinity.
They were a solid pillar in our community before they moved from Utah to Idaho. You hear this bull? He had all these people in Utah fooled. So he just basically says Chad wanted him to come get Tammy's body, so he did. He said that he felt that it was a little weird. We're going to fast forward and kind of get into where he felt it was a little strange because Chad wanted to, basically, in his words, get it over with, get Tammy Daybell's funeral over with. So we're going to move into prior cross-examining the mortuary guy because Chad wanted this done, I think, in like 2 days or something really quick. So here's the cross-examination of the embalmer.
Judge, if I could just have a moment, please.
And they call their neighborhoods wards because they're put into wards by the community they live in. Isn't it weird how they just refer to it like that? Like when he moved into the ward.
Morning, Mr. Schultz.
Morning.
I also have a tendency to talk quick and overtalk people.
Sorry.
And it's an affliction I have. So between the two of us, this should be interesting.
Oh, Lord.
I'll try to slow down, though. You've known Chad's family actually longer than you actually have known Chad. Is that right?
Well, yeah, I've known of Chad, but when I really got to know Chad was when we moved into the ward. That's when I got to know him better.
Okay.
I knew his parents from the same general area of town that we grew up in.
Okay. And do you recall that you spoke with Officer Mattingly
Chad's
about this
parental
case
unit
in an interview on February 19th of 2020?
Yes.
Okay. And an Officer Mattingly went over a number of topics, and I'd like to talk to you a little bit about each of
Sure.
those if we could. Okay. You mentioned the name Jason William. And Jason William is related. Is it Jason William?
Yes. Jason William is the husband of Samantha William, who is the sister of Tammy Daybell.
Okay. And you mentioned something about Jason, and Jason knew Chad fairly well.
I would hope so. Yes. He would been a part of their family forever.
Spoke very highly of Chad.
Correct.
Had a very high opinion of Chad. Is that right?
That is correct.
Raise
And you as
that
well.
chin,
You had
Chad.
mentioned in the report,
Piece of crap.
you thought Chad was a good guy.
Yes.
Okay. Do you still have that opinion?
Yes, I think Chad is a good person.
Oh,
All right.
Never
Thank
mind.
you.
did you see Chad look at him? Oh, is this guy intimidated by Chud? Is this guy intimidated by Chud? How dare Chud stare this guy down? I think, yeah, he's a good guy. No, he's not. He's on trial for murder. He's not a good guy. Oh my word, these people. Why are they all so weak? I can't take it.
Morning, Mr. Schultz.
Morning.
Sorry, I went back.
I
too
also
far.
have a tendency to talk quick and overtalk people.
Sorry.
And it's an affliction I have.
I went
so
too far.
between
Sorry.
the two of us, this should be interesting. I'll try to slow down, though. You've known Chad's family actually longer than you actually have known Chad. Is that right?
Well, yeah, I've known of Chad, but when I really got to know Chad was when we moved into the ward. That's when I got to know him better.
Okay.
I knew his parents from the same general area of town that we grew up in.
Okay. And do you recall that you spoke with Officer Mattingly about this case in an interview on February 19th of 2020?
Yes.
Okay. And an Officer Mattingly went over a number of topics, and I'd like to talk to you a little bit about each of
Sure.
those if we could. Okay. All right. You mentioned the name Jason William. And Jason William is related.
Hey,
is it Jason
Danielle.
William?
Yes. Jason William is the husband of Samantha William, who is the sister of Tammy Daybell.
Okay. And you mentioned something about Jason, and Jason knew Chad fairly well.
I would hope so. Yes, he would been a part of their family forever.
Spoke very highly of Chad.
Correct.
Had a very high opinion of Chad. Is that right?
That is correct.
And you as well.
Watch
you
Chad.
had mentioned in the report.
He swings his head
thought
over.
Chad
Watch.
was a good guy.
Yes.
Okay. Do you still have that opinion?
Yes, I think Chad is a good person.
Okay.
But
All right.
never
Thank
mind.
you.
Wow. Wow.
You mentioned with Officer Mattingly that Chad had spoke to you a little bit about what happened
These people are unbelievable, man.
regarding Tammy. Is that right? About the manner in which she passed away. Is that correct?
This is a
Yes, I
state's
had a
witness.
conversation with Chad.
Do you recall telling Officer Mattingly that Chad said Tammy had been sick and had a coughing spasm, and he woke up, found her dead?
I'm repeating that from what Chad had told me.
Okay.
Yes.
And you mentioned that Jason William also was aware that Tammy had some medical issues as well. Is that right?
That's what so Jason had indicated to me as well.
During your discussion with Jason, there was a history of some medical problems that Tammy was experiencing. Is that correct?
I don't know if I can confirm that.
Okay. But you talked to Jason about some medical problems, correct?
That he had heard from Chad as well.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, everything came from Chad.
At the time, you told Officer Mattingly that Chad found her dead beside the bed in the morning, that he called Garth to come and help out. Do you recall telling Officer Mattingly that?
Garth.
Yes.
That Chad said he thought the coroner told him Tammy had an embolism?
Chad told Jason or me?
Told you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Chad told me that the coroner said that she had apparently died from an embolism.
And sir, how long have you practiced the occupation that you practiced until your retirement in 2022?
About 12 years.
Okay. So you've had a significant amount of experience in viewing bodies and looking for things that you have a concern about regarding issues relating to people after they've passed. Would that be fair?
Yes.
And you understand, and please let me know that if there ever is an instant where you were to find some problem with a body, whether it was something suspicious or something of a concern, are you under a legal obligation to report that to law enforcement as part of your licensing?
Typically not, because I would it should have been overlooked already by either the medical examiner, the coroner, or the doctor who was the attending physician.
Okay, so you're not under any legal obligation to report if you see something suspicious.
No.
But under a moral obligation, you would report something if you found it suspicious, would you not?
You know what? I don't know if I really would report it or not, because it's already been determined by that attending person who knew that. So I don't know who I'd report it to.
Okay. So when you say that attending person, if someone passes away
Mark.
and there's a physician there, obviously there's no need to do an autopsy. Is that right?
Only if the medical examiner dictates it requires one.
Okay.
A lot of times the family will ask us if we want to have an autopsy done. At that case, they can bypass the medical examiner and have it done, a private autopsy done,
Okay.
just to satisfy their curiosity.
But ultimately, do you understand that a coroner is the one who makes the final decision as to whether or not there's going to be an autopsy?
Yes, because that person will then contact the family.
And it's really the coroner's obligation to go through and look at a body and to make an initial determination as to whether or not there's any foul play or anything of a concern. Would that be fair?
It's a good question, because if you'd have to trust your medical examiner or your coroner.
Right, right. And and you don't know whether or not after they make this examination, if they're under any obligation to report any foul play, do you?
I don't know what they're.
Okay.
I don't have it.
But in any event, you took the time because you felt that the funeral was moving along quicker than you would like it to be.
Outside the standard norm, yes.
And when you talked about the standard norm, you mentioned that the standard norm is 3 to 4 days.
Typically.
Okay. So what we were looking at is doing this in 2 days, not 3 days, right?
Yes, but there was some talk about wanting maybe to do it on a Monday.
Right.
So that, again, just certain red flags.
Yeah. But you don't know if whether or not this was a reaction to grief or whether just someone wanted to just, not, as you expressed it, the hoopla. And what do you mean by the hoopla?
Getting things ready for the program, getting things ready for luncheons that need to transpire, doing things that the typical funeral would have to take some time to prepare and get people on board with you.
And in your experience, that could have two facets to it. That could either be a healing process for the family to go through that, right?
That could.
Or on the alternative, that could be an extremely emotional and difficult thing to go through that healing process. And we don't know which one we were dealing with here, right?
We do not.
Right. Okay. And according to what I'm reading in Officer Mattingly's report, you told him Chad said he didn't want to drag this thing out.
Right.
He didn't say he wanted to hide anything, did he?
No, he did not. The only thing he told me was he did not want to drag this thing out.
Okay. Okay. And then you took the time to look at the face of Tammy. Is that right?
Correct.
You looked at the neck.
Yes.
You didn't see any issues of any kind of trauma or anything that would cause anything of a concern. Is that right?
From my limited medical knowledge, no.
Right. And I understand that you don't have the expertise, but if there was a concern, there was no visible concern of any kind of a problem. Is that right?
That's correct.
And then you looked at her arms as you dressed her. Is that right?
Yes.
And you didn't see anything on her arms that would cause you any kind of a concern. Would that be fair?
Yes.
Okay. And nothing on her legs that would cause you to have any concern, right?
Correct.
Okay. And nothing on any other part of her body that would make you draw any concerns for you. Would that be fair?
Correct.
Okay.
He picked up her body and brought it to
You
Utah.
talked about Chad being a sexton. And a sexton is someone who works in the funeral business. Is that right?
Correct.
And Chad's occupation was part of it was to mow the grounds or take care of the lawn and the grounds area.
That's part of his responsibility. Yes.
And in terms of dealing with the actual grave sites, there wasn't a situation where he would actually hand dig the graves, would he?
Very few hand dig. They have a backhoe.
Right. And you
Right.
anticipated what I say. Nobody uses a shovel anymore to do
Correct.
that. That's from the 1800s.
Whatever. Yeah.
On Chad's book
So
cover,
in
he
essence,
does.
what it is
He's
someone
got a
on your staff
shovel in
would
the grave.
take out a backhoe and use a backhoe to dig up a grave, right?
From the sexton's boss. I mean, or
Yeah, the sexton's boss would do that, or who would do that? Use the backhoe.
who would determine to use the backhoe?
Who would be authorized to use the backhoe when you're doing that as part of this
Well,
process?
it's typically the sexton.
Okay. So Chad might have had some experience with a backhoe, right?
He does.
Okay. Maybe not experience with using a shovel to dig graves though, right?
Correct.
Right.
Still a backhoe. Mark, they still believe this stuff.
Now,
though.
at the time of the service,
That's
all of
what's
the kids
scary.
spoke. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. All 5 kids.
Wait, one was on a mission, I believe.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. 4 kids.
4 kids.
You're right.
Wait,
When
one kid was on a mission when his mother died and was not even at the funeral. Wow. I wonder which one it is. And I wonder if that kid is one of the ones that's not going to testify because he wasn't home. Because I think they have 5 kids and 3 are supposed to testify. I know one is Emma, and I think she's going to be who the defense is going to say their star witness is. But wow. On one of Chad Daybell's book covers, though, there's a grave, and he's in it with a shovel, and he's like showing that he's digging the grave with a shovel. Ugh. He has no shovel experience. So what does that mean? He didn't do this? This case is nauseating.
Chad was talking during the funeral, he broke down. He became very emotional.
He did.
Okay. Was that something that in
He
all of
probably
the
missed
experience
Lori.
that you've had knowing Chad and his family, did that seem genuine?
Yes, it appeared genuine from my point of view.
And in your point of view is that you've known Chad for a good part of his life. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, not his entire life, for that 9 to 10 year period.
And
When we moved into the neighborhood.
And you worked with him for
We
a long
worked with
time.
him.
And you had an opportunity, like you said, during the time that you had downtime during other people's funerals, you'd have a chance to get acquainted with each other.
Correct.
So much that you made the opinion that you think Chad's a good guy.
Mm.
That yes,
Okay.
from 2000 up until 2015,
Right.
I had no problems.
Right.
Oh, now he put
And,
a date on it.
Then during the actual funeral, you had noticed that Chad and Emma were crying as well.
Yes.
Chad was
Fucking
doing
Emma.
something with his hair. He was emotional that he was tugging on his hair or something, you said?
Okay. Now this that is part of the. I just barely got to see the police report maybe about 2 weeks ago.
Oh, okay.
There was either a typo or I had maybe I'd given the information talking about Chad. I may have mentioned Chad in the report. It was not Chad in the who was leaning over the casket, and
Who was
and
it?
it was his son Garth,
Okay.
who was
Oh,
there
his
showing the
twin.
extreme distress, emotional distress, and Emma was there as well.
Okay. And were you aware that Garth and Tammy were extremely close?
Yes, Tammy was a good mother to all of her children.
She was particularly close with Garth, though. Do you recall?
I don't know if I could answer that she
Okay.
was one way or the other.
That's sad.
Can't put a hierarchy to it.
Okay. And I appreciate that.
Okay.
It's so sad. Poor Garth.
You mentioned somewhere in the report that you thought of Chad as a brother. Is that right?
Yeah. Yes, I did.
And again, Jason William at the time of the death of Tammy didn't say anything particularly negative about Chad, right?
No, in fact, he defended him with my comment about, do you think he killed her?
Right.
Said, oh, no.
Jason shared the same opinion that Chad is someone who's a good person.
Yes, he would never do that.
Okay.
According to him.
So this guy actually traveled with Jason from Utah to Idaho to pick up her body. And when they got there, just the behavior and how Chad wanted to rush it, this guy was like to Jason, do you think he killed her? But this Jason was like, no.
And sir, thank you. And I appreciate it.
Redirect.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Schultz, to pick up where the
Okay.
defense just left off.
We are going to skip that and then we'll watch his recross.
Paxton, just the fact that being involved in the funeral business, such as you are also comfortable with death and viewing bodies. Is that right?
Correct.
And that goes with part of the occupation. Would that be fair?
Yes.
Okay. And just because someone writes books doesn't necessarily mean, if Chad hadn't had his experience as a sexton, just the fact that someone writes books about topics that make some people uncomfortable doesn't mean that you're necessarily comfortable with death. Would you agree with that?
I'm not really sure. Can you rephrase that?
Sure. Just because someone writes books about topics that make people uncomfortable, does that mean that you're necessarily comfortable with death if you've had no other experience?
I think that would probably have to vary from person to person.
That's fair enough. Thank you. I appreciate it. Bye-bye.
He said, I appreciate it. Bye-bye. Why is he such an ass? Why is he such an ass?
Does that mean that you're necessarily comfortable with death if you've had no other experience?
I think that would probably have to vary from person to person.
That's fair enough. Thank you. I appreciate it. Bye-bye.
He's so stupid. All right, let's get to the next witness. The next witness is going to be Mr. Ron Arnold. This is an LDS friend. Smoke it if you got him. This is an LDS friend, and then after this is Whitney Arnold, his wife. Thank you. Bye-bye. What an idiot. I hate that he makes me laugh because it is such a serious case, but God, can't.
All right, now that the witness has been sworn, I do have a few questions before we commence with direct. Mr. Arnold, have you observed any of this trial, either through online or in the courtroom since it began?
No.
Have you discussed anybody else's testimony with them that they've given in the trial?
No.
Okay, thank you for your responses there. Ms. Beatty, if you'd like to inquire on direct, you may.
Thank you, Your Honor. Sir, could you please state your full name and then spell your last name?
Ron Arnold, ARNOLD,
Where do you live, sir?
in Salem, Idaho,
And what county is that in?
Fremont County.
Okay. Who are you married to?
Whitney Arnold.
How long have you lived over there in Salem?
5 years.
Okay. Do you know an
Well,
individual?
actually, I've lived there. Sorry, I've lived there since 2015. Yeah,
Fair enough. Do you know an individual named Chad Daybell?
yes,
Do you see him in the courtroom today?
yes.
Okay. You guys pay close attention. I actually trimmed this earlier because I was trying to find like all the spots I wanted to play for you guys. Okay, I'm going to play this on normal speed. This is one of your good highlights. You know how they asked them to say, "Do you see him in the courtroom today? Can you tell me what he's wearing?" Okay, get ready for it. Watch Chad. idiots. These two are just two idiots.
Can you tell me where he's sitting and what he's wearing?
He's sitting right there. He's wearing a white shirt and tie.
And were you familiar
Can you
with
believe him?
Tammy Daybell?
Is he not an idiot? He looks down at his tie. And then smile. He is, I'm telling you, this dude, he doesn't think he's done shit wrong.
For him today?
Yes.
Can you tell me where he's sitting and what he's wearing?
He's sitting right there. He's wearing a white shirt and tie.
And were you familiar with Tammy Daybell?
Yes.
Where did you meet Chad and Tammy Daybell?
I was in Chad and Tammy's ward.
Okay. And about
Chad was my home teacher for 3.5 years, and him and his son came in to visit us on a regular
home
basis
teacher.
for that time.
which son was that?
Mark.
Mark. Mark.
And did you get to know Tammy as well?
Yes.
Okay. About how often did you
He's like,
interact with her?
Not that much, to be frank with you.
Okay. I'd like to ask you about some dates in 2019 and 2020. Is that okay?
Mhm.
Do you remember the weekend of September 21st, 2019?
Yes.
Now I'm going to back up a little bit. What's your occupation?
I'm a real estate broker in Southeast Idaho for Ron Arnold Realty.
Okay. And that weekend of September 21st of 2019, were you asked to do a real estate showing?
Yes.
Who asked you to do a real estate showing?
Chad.
Where was that real estate showing?
It was on 1800 East and about 190 North.
And that's near Salem or in Salem?
Yes. Yep.
And did you end up doing that showing for Mr. Daybell?
Yes.
Who, if anyone, came with Mr. Daybell to that showing?
I picked him up at his home and we met people there.
Who was there?
David Warwick and Melanie Gibb.
Was anybody else there?
Yes.
Who was that?
I didn't know at the time. I was introduced to this person. They said his name, but I didn't remember. But looking back, it was Alex.
Oh,
Alex,
Lord.
too. And I apologize.
Alex Cox.
Thank you, sir. Was anybody else there?
No.
After that showing, did anybody in that party purchase the property or did anything come of it?
No.
Okay. And
So that whole group went and looked at this property and nothing came of it. But this is around the time the children were unalived. But they all went to look at this big piece of property.
I'd like to talk to you about October 19th of 2019. Do you remember that day?
Yes.
What happened on October 9th of 2019?
We received a call about between 8:30 and 9 o'clock. Whitney and I received a call, and our bishop had informed us that Tammy had died.
What did you actually, approximately what time on the 19th did you get that call?
Sometime between 8:30 and 9 o'clock a.m.
What did you do after getting that call?
We immediately went to the house,
Whose house did you go to?
to Chad and Tammy's house.
When you got to the house, who was there?
Chad was there, obviously, and some of the kids. Everybody was in some different rooms, so I didn't take inventory, I guess.
Fair enough. Did you see Chad?
Yes.
Did you speak to Chad?
Yes.
Did you notice anything about his demeanor?
He seemed distraught.
Did you speak to him?
Yeah, I mean, I asked him, how he was doing, and in that situation, a spouse passing away, and yeah.
Did you discuss with him how Tammy had passed on that day?
Not really. No.
Okay. Did you attend a memorial service for Tammy Daybell?
Yes.
Do you recall when that was?
I think it was it was a Wednesday. I think the funeral that was in Springville and on a Saturday, and this memorial was on a Wednesday.
Okay. So when you say there were two separate services,
Yes.
and when you say one of the services was in Springville, would that be Springville, Utah, where Tammy was from?
Yes.
And you attended a service in Idaho for Tammy?
Correct.
And that was a few days after her death?
Yes.
Okay. At that memorial service, did you speak to Chad?
Yes.
What conversation did you have with Chad the day of Tammy's funeral in Idaho, or service in Idaho?
More specifically, I mean, we visited, but he said that he wasn't going to be living at the house at the time. He didn't feel comfortable being there and was going to stay in Rexburg with a friend.
And when he said he didn't feel comfortable at the house, did you take that to mean the home that he had shared with Tammy?
Yes.
Did he say anything about leaving Idaho?
Yes.
What did he tell you about that?
He said that he was going to go to Hawaii to do a biography, help a friend do a biography.
Did he identify who this friend was?
No.
A biography?
Did you think that was strange?
I took it for face value. I mean, that's what Chad had been doing, writing books and those types of things.
Okay. At some point in time, did you learn that Chad had remarried?
Yes.
At some point in time, did you meet Chad's new wife?
Yes.
When was that?
It was in probably early November. Do you want me to explain the?
So his wife dies in October? And then he's introducing these quacks to his new wife in November. And nobody thought a thing was wrong.
The circumstances?
Let me just ask you a clarifying question.
Yes.
Was that in November of 2019?
Yes.
Approximately how soon after Tammy had died did you meet Chad's new wife?
That's when I met her.
In November?
Yes.
Okay.
She
And do you
died in
remember when in
November, too?
November?
Not specifically. We were having his kids over for family evening and a meal. And he had called me that day and said he wanted to bring his new wife over for us to meet. And I had explained that I says, well, you know that your kids are coming over to our home for supper. Why don't you just come then and eat with us? And, you can introduce us then.
And did you meet Chad's new wife that night?
Yes.
Who was that?
Lori.
In the name
Lori
of
Vallow.
Jesus, Father God, Lord.
Did you have a conversation with Chad and Lori about whether or not Lori had children?
We asked her the normal questions you'd ask somebody that you don't know, where are you from? How many kids do you have? Those kinds of things.
And do you recall what Lori's answers were or what Chad may have said?
I recall her saying that she had 7 kids.
Okay. And could that have been in reference to her and Chad's kids combined?
I was thinking that it was her children, not Chad's.
Okay.
7?
Did she say whether she had children living at home?
No.
Okay.
She was not specific about her children.
Okay. Were you with her the entire night or were you in other parts of the conversation that evening?
Okay, so this is where I'm going to cut in. Chad and Lori, as James and Elena, their aliases, they had 7 children together. Don't ask me where the fark these children are. If these are people, I don't know what is going on here, but this is their 7 children. They had 4 sons and 3 daughters, according to them. Kenneth, Melanie, Jada, Jace, Jenny, Connor, and JJ Vallow. They are rated as 1 light, 3 light, 1 light, 3, 4.3. JJ is a 4.2 light on here. Jace is 16 years old, it says. Tall and a high school quarterback. These people are like mentally ill. Like that's probably what Chad always wanted to be, was tall and the high school quarterback. Thank you, SL. I'll check it when this is over. And then Jenny is one of the Dream Girls. I don't know who the Dream Girls are, but Kenneth is also named Simon, and he's 5 and a 1 light. And then they have other numbers in parentheses, but Melanie is a 3 light. Jada is a 4.3 light. Jace is a 5.1 light. That's the tall high school quarterback. He's a 5.1 light. He's the lightest of them all. Jenny is a 4.3 light and is one of the Dream Girls. And Connor is also a 4.3 light And then JJ Vallow is a 4.2 light. Freaking weird.
They weren't there that long, but you know, we had a dining room area and a family room area that are kind of connected. And so everybody was kind of together,
Socializing.
socializing it.
Okay. After the dinner that you had with Chad and Lori in November of 2019, when was the next time that you heard from Chad?
In March of 2020.
In what part of March of 2020 did you next hear from Chad?
It was around the 16th of March.
And how did Chad contact you, or how did you come into contact with Chad?
He called me and asked if he could meet with me.
And did he tell you why when he was speaking with you on the phone?
No.
And did you meet with him that weekend in March?
Yes.
Where did you meet with him?
He came, we were just moving from our rental into our new home, and I had him meet me at our rental.
And Judge, could I have some foundation as to what year they're talking about?
Would this be, thank you, Mr. Pryor. Would this be March of 2020?
Correct.
Thank you. So you met with Mr. Daybell at your rental home.
Mhm.
And what did you do next?
He got in with me in my vehicle and we drove around and visited.
Visited.
What was the
Yikes.
first thing that you talked about with Chad Daybell?
I asked Chad the questions that probably everybody else would want to ask about where are the kids and why haven't you told anybody? And sorry.
That's okay. So let's zoom out a little bit.
Okay.
What was going on at that time that caused you to ask Chad those questions?
Lori had been incarcerated and there was the big news and search for missing children.
Now, did you learn why Chad had wanted to meet with you that day?
Yes, eventually, yes.
And why had Chad wanted to meet with you that day?
We had previously talked about splitting his property and possibly putting another home on it. And we determined that his lot was too small. And so he wanted to know if he could put a home on it, which I thought he could. My experience thought he could probably put another home on it. And we talked about the fastest way that could be done. And that was with either a manufactured or a modular home. And we talked about some of those details.
And did he tell you why he wanted to put that home on his property at that time?
He said that he felt like he was going to need a place for him and Lori to live.
So Chad was going to put Lori up in a trailer. Let's say it. He was going to put a mobile home on the property and put Princess Lori up in a trailer. Can you imagine? Charles Vallow gave her the world. That woman had everything she could desire. What in the world happens to these people? I just don't understand it.
Okay.
It's so warped.
And you said that you talked to Mr. Daybell about doing that as fast as possible. Why did you talk about doing it as fast as possible?
Probably because getting into a home and having one built back then took 8 to 10 months, and you could get a manufactured home in 3 to 4 back then.
Okay. And back to the conversation that you had with Chad about where the kids were. When you asked where the kids were, whose children were you referring to?
The kids that were missing, Lori's kids.
His wife Lori's children. And what did Chad tell you about his wife Lori's children and where they were?
He looked me straight in the eye and he told me that they were okay, and when this all was going to be, when everything came out, that everything was going to be just fine.
And that was in March of 2020?
That's correct.
I have no further questions for this witness.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Beatty. Mr. Pryor Cross, yes.
Good morning, Mr. Arnold.
Good morning.
So my understanding is you mentioned that you live in the Salem, Idaho area, right?
Correct.
Been there since 2015.
Correct.
You're actively involved in your church, is that right?
Yes.
That's the LDS faith, is it?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
And
Please, Mr. Arnold, wait until the question's done before you answer. Our court reporter can only take down one at a time.
and Judge, I just realized I was going very quickly, so I'm going to also slow down.
I like him to go quickly.
Oh my God.
Seems to be a habit with a lot of people.
Oh, good Lord. Are you kidding me? I like him to go quickly. I like that when Chad went quickly too.
I have no further questions for this witness.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Beatty.
I agree, Stephanie, 150,000%.
Mr. Pryor Cross, yes.
They're despicable. All of them. All of them.
Jeepers.
Good morning, Mr. Arnold.
Good morning.
So my understanding is you mentioned that you live in the Salem, Idaho area, right?
Correct.
Been there since 2015.
Correct.
You're actively involved in your church, is that right?
Yes.
That's the LDS faith, is it?
Yes.
not? Okay.
Okay.
And
And please, Mr. Arnold, wait until the question's done before you answer. Our court reporter can only take down one at a time.
and Judge, I just realized I was going very quickly, so I'm going to also slow down.
I like him to go quickly.
Seems to be a habit with a lot of people.
I can't.
You mentioned that Chad was a member of your ward. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay, now, from someone on the outside, describe in essence what a ward is.
A ward is a geographic area in a stake that's the geographic area inside the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Okay, so are there more than one stakes in a state?
Yes.
Okay, so a ward is a geographical area within the a part of, in this case, it's Eastern Idaho. Is that right?
Correct.
And that would include the town of Salem, which is, I've
This
been there a couple of
witness
times. It's a small
doesn't
community,
like
right?
Salem's not an incorporated town. It's a
Right.
small community. A ward has somewhere between 300 and 600 people in it. A stake has somewhere between 25 and 3,000 people in it. And it's based on numbers in a geographic area.
So if we talk about the Henry's Fork ward, we're talking about a very large geographical area.
The Henry's Fork, there is the Henry's Fork ward, but it's the Rexburg Henry's Fork stake, and it had 9 wards in it. And the ward we were in was the Salem 3rd Ward.
Okay. And having gone through Salem, what I recall about Salem is there's a church there.
Correct.
And that's kind of pretty much all of Salem. Would that be fair?
Well, there's a lot of residents there, all spread out, but yes.
Other than commercial buildings and religious facilities, Salem consists of a religious facility, right?
Yeah, there is a church house in Salem.
And it's a fundamental part of the community there. It's a drawing area where the people meet on Sundays and other times for various activities. Would that be fair?
That's correct.
And in one instance, the use of Salem Church is for some of the folks out in the Salem area, the only place that they could get internet access. Would that be fair?
No,
It's not?
no.
Okay. But the church offers free internet as part of its building there. You call that?
The internet in our Salem building is really bad, so you don't go there to get internet.
Okay. Okay. So you mentioned in September 21 of 2019. Do you recall that?
September,
21 of 2019.
Yes.
And that was on a Sunday.
well, if the 21st is a Sunday, yes,
Okay. Well, on that particular day, you were at church with Chad that morning and
that is correct. Oh, sorry.
that's okay.
Don't hold me in contempt. I'm trying.
No, takes a lot more than that.
Would you ask him for me too?
Okay, yes.
Thank you.
Are you kidding me right now? He said, don't hold me in contempt. I want him to go fast. Don't hold me in contempt.
It's not?
No,
Okay. But the church offers free internet as part of its building there. You call that?
the internet in our Salem building is really bad, so you don't go there to get internet.
Okay. Okay. So you mentioned in September 21 of 2019. Do you recall that?
September,
21 of 2019.
Yes.
And that was on a Sunday.
well, if the 21st is a Sunday, yes,
Okay. Well, on that particular day, you were at church with Chad that morning and
that is correct. Oh, sorry.
that's okay.
Don't hold me in contempt. I'm trying.
No, takes a lot more than that.
Would you ask him for me too?
Okay, yes.
Thank you. You're just going to make me slow down even more now. Okay, so on September 21 of 2019, you started the day with Chad at church services. Is that right?
That's correct.
And without getting too personal, I know how long I'm in church, but how long of a process is that?
Well, it's a 2-hour block, but there's meetings for leaders before and then there's some things to do after church.
Right. So it can encompass 3, maybe even 4 hours sometimes.
Correct.
So on that particular day, although you may not have a specific recollection, Chad could have been there just before 12 o'clock that day. Would that be fair?
I can't remember, to be frank with you, what time we was meeting because we switch every year. Our meeting times switch
Okay.
every year.
But it does run late into the morning, right?
Yes,
So that wouldn't have given Chad an opportunity on a Sunday to leave and meet with anybody else prior to you picking Chad up at his house on the 21st, right?
I was not with Chad eye-to-eye contact the whole time at church, before or during or even after.
Okay, but when you picked up Chad at his house, he was still in his church clothes, wasn't he?
He was in a white shirt and dress pants, but no tie.
Okay. But that wouldn't be unusual for what he would wear to go to church, correct?
That's correct.
No
Okay.
tie.
And then at that point, you picked him up and you drove out to a piece of property that you were trying to market. Would that be fair?
Yes, which was basically less than 2 minutes from Chad's home.
Right. And I appreciate you telling me that. And at this point, Chad mentioned to you and a guy by the name of Keith about looking at that property. What was that connection with the property and a Keith?
Keith had been was somebody that I had been talking to about trying to help him find either a home or a piece of property that he could purchase and build a home on.
Who's Keith?
Okay. And then that particular piece of property is something that Keith was interested in prior to you going out there with these other folks. Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay. But then at some point, Chad contacted you and said he has someone who has expressed some interest in buying or at least purchasing some property in the area. Do you recall that?
Yes,
And that person was a guy by the name of David Warwick.
that's correct.
And David Warwick contacted Chad, and in turn, Chad provided you with David's phone number.
That might have been how that went. I think originally we met at the property first, and then I think Chad provided the phone number for David.
Okay. But you're not sure about that.
Yeah, I can't remember the order of
Okay.
that.
It could have been the other way.
Yeah.
Okay.
The first time I met David Warwick was at that property.
Right. Okay. So we're unclear as whether you had the phone number before or after.
Correct.
Okay. And then when you drove out to that property with Chad after church, did you visit any other properties?
No, I had tried to get Chad to wait till Monday, and he had indicated that they were only going to, the people that were coming to look at it were only going to be there Sunday, and it would only, we really needed to do that. So he pressed that. And so I reluctantly agreed to go show that property and it was actually in the afternoon.
Okay.
It was after 12 PM.
It was later in the afternoon.
It was a little later in the
So
afternoon.
maybe church and all of the obligations with church may have run a little later.
I had been at home. Well, I had been at home when he called and says,
Okay.
will you come and show this property?
Okay. And at that point, when you showed up, there were several people there. Is that right?
The only person there was when I arrived was, and I learned this later, was Alex.
Right.
And then while we were there briefly, and David and Melanie showed up.
Okay. So from what I understand then, it's your testimony that this person, Alex, showed up first when you arrived with Chad.
I don't recall if he was there when we arrived or he arrived after we were there, but we weren't there very long.
Okay. And this person drove in his own vehicle when he arrived there. Would that be fair?
Yeah, I assume that. Yes.
It wouldn't be someplace where you'd walk from somewhere in
No,
Salem, Dakota,
no.
right? Okay. And then subsequent to that, in an absolutely separate car, the other two people who you mentioned were, who were the other two people that were there afterwards when Alex arrived?
Oh, David Warwick and Melanie Gibb.
Okay. So then in a separate car, David Warwick and Melanie Gibb arrived, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And how long were you there looking at the property?
Maybe 15 minutes.
Okay. And did David express that he had an interest in purchasing a piece of property?
He had indicated that he was either looking here or in another location to maybe do some developing.
And did he have did he give you the indication that he had the financial ability to do that, or is that something you looked into?
We did not talk about that at that time.
So at this point, on September 21 of 2019 in the afternoon, if I understand you correctly, you didn't look into the financial resources that David may have to purchase 88 acres. Is that right?
It was 79 acres,
Oh.
and
Big difference.
I had not checked with him prior to that.
Oh, I was under the impression it was 88 acres. Am I mistaken?
79
79 acres? Okay. And the cost of that 79 acres would have been about how much money?
at the time, about $700,000.
Okay.
Damn.
But you didn't take the liberty of deciding whether or not David could afford that 700 and some odd $1,000. Is that right?
Mr. Pryor, I didn't know who was coming.
Okay. That's okay. I'm just asking.
I went there to show the property as a favor to Chad.
Right.
And so that's the first time I'd met David Warwick. Chad had mentioned that he had talked to several people that were maybe possibly looking at developing property in the area
Okay.
And I assumed that this was one of them.
Okay.
And so if we would have kept pursuing it, obviously I would have.
Okay. And that's not as a means. I'm just getting the fact that we didn't establish whether David could even afford to buy that property is where I was going.
I guess I'm not seeing the relevance of that question to me.
Okay. Well, that's unfortunately up for the judge to decide, not for you and I to decide. You understand that, right?
Ooh,
I guess.
damn.
No, I
Okay,
don't,
thank you.
maybe not.
Okay.
Ooh, this is getting spicy. He said, I don't really find that question to be relevant. And he said, that's not for you to decide.
And that's not as a means. I'm just getting the fact that we didn't establish whether David could even afford to buy that property is where I was going.
I guess I'm not seeing the relevance of that question to me.
Okay. Well, that's unfortunately up for the judge to decide, not for you and I to decide. You understand that, right?
I guess. No, I
Okay,
don't,
thank you.
maybe not.
Okay. And then at some point, there was an arrangement for you to meet the following day with David. Is that right?
I don't think so. I think we maybe tried, but they were leaving town. And so the only contact I had with David after that was we had a couple phone calls, follow-up phone calls. You know, are you interested? He wasn't sure. And then we didn't have any more contact after.
So you don't recall the fact that you went to Gringo's restaurant the next day with Chad with the intention to meet David Warwick on that following Monday. You don't recall that?
Actually, I don't.
Okay. Okay. And you don't recall mentioning to Chad that David had notified you that he had already left town and wasn't going to be able to meet on the Monday following.
That's good. Yeah, that could have happened that way.
Okay. So in other words, there could have been a discussion with David about going back to the property, and it could have happened that he called you and said, I'm having to get out of town and I can't meet with you on Monday. It could have happened that way?
We did not have a conversation about him returning and looking at the property before he left town.
Okay. Now, you mentioned that you, on the 19th of 2019, you were over at Chad's house. Is that right?
What's the date?
October 19, 2019?
Yes, correct.
Okay. And when you were over there on October 19th of 2019, you're familiar with that house, right?
No, I have never been inside that house.
Oh.
I had been in the foyer, and they have a breezeway or an entryway, and that's as far as I'd ever been in that house.
Did you familiarize yourself with the property surrounding that house?
When we talked about splitting the property, it was about the acreage,
Okay.
not about the house or the floor plan or any of those kinds of things.
Okay, so the acreage that you're talking about, do you have any recollection of how much acreage we're talking around that surrounds Chad's house?
You own it. How many acres is it?
Well, I appreciate it. I don't know. Judge, could we have a sidebar?
Yes.
Oh. You own it. How many acres is it? Pryor's like, this putz ain't gonna do this to me. Oh, shit. Let's listen to that again.
The acreage that you're talking about, do you have any recollection of how much acreage we're talking around that surrounds Chad's house?
You own it. How many acres is it?
Well, I appreciate it. I don't know. Judge, could we have a sidebar?
Yes.
Okay, so they have a pretty lengthy sidebar. Let's see. Chad's like, anybody got any popcorn? This is getting good. This is getting good. They're gone for a while. Dang. All right, here we go. We're waiting for the judge. He's not at his chair yet. Oh, man. I know, right, Amy? He does not like John Pryor. Where's the freaking judge?
And on that fact, do not discuss that in any way in your deliberations or speculate about the previous
You're
answer.
supposed to
and I'll
forget
also
you ever
instruct the
heard
witness
that.
to avoid mentioning that topic again.
Pretend
Mr.
you
Pryor,
never
with
heard
in
that
mind, then you
fact.
can continue with your cross-examination.
Thank you, Judge. Now, you mentioned that Chad said that the kids are fine, right?
Yes.
And you mentioned that the truth will come out. Is that what you said? Something to that effect?
I didn't say the truth. He said that when things all come out, everybody will realize that everything will be fine.
Okay. So from that, did you glean that the children were alive?
I assumed yes.
Okay. And did Mr. Daybell at the time, did Chad at the time, when he told you that, was he sincere about when he told you that?
Yes.
And you've known him for a while, then that was true sincerity when he told you the kids are fine, right?
Objection calls for speculation.
Hold on, don't answer that. Sustained.
Okay. Now, you talked about the fact that there was some discussion, and please, oh, there we are. You talked about the discussion that it would generally be against your practice to do anything on a Sunday, correct?
I don't try to work on Sunday.
But and for lack of a better word, from my
don't
perspective, that would be
try
called like
to.
a Sabbath. Are you familiar with that term?
Yes.
But regardless of your faith and your beliefs, it's a day that you reserve for spending time with your family and doing things in that regard, church and family.
Yes.
Okay. And Chad was of the same faith as you are and had the same practice of Sunday was
Church
reserved
and
for being at home with his family
Church
and
and
practicing your
family.
faith and your commitment to your family. Would that be fair?
Everybody does that different.
Okay. And typically most folks in your faith would have some sort of a meal on a
Everybody does that.
Friday
It's
or on a
okay.
Sunday in the morning or in the evening. Is that true or is that not true?
That's subjective too.
Okay.
Everybody does that different.
Okay. Okay, fair enough.
Everybody does that. It's okay.
Then you went to a discussion that in March of 2020 that there was some discussion about subdividing the property. Is that right?
Objection misstates the testimony.
Same.
You had some discussion about putting another modular home on the property. Is that right?
We had determined by then that that the county wouldn't let him split the property.
Okay.
But because there had been a single wide trailer on the property as well as the home and another septic system. And I had told him that the county would probably allow him to put another home on it, knowing that he would never be able to split that or sell that separately.
Okay, I see. So I misunderstood the facts a little bit. Thank you for clarifying. So in other words, there was some thought process initially into doing some sort of division of the property and you folks determined that was not feasible. Is that fair?
That's correct.
So the only other option would be to use a then existing septic that was already on the property somewhere, correct?
No.
Okay, please tell me then.
Because it had a septic system, the county would probably allow him to put another home on it, not necessarily that they would have to use that septic system.
Okay, all right. So there was an intent of March of 2020, from what I gather, for Mr. Daybell and his new wife to put a residence up for them to live in.
That's what he indicated.
Okay, so the intent was for them to stay for a while and then.
Objection calls for speculation.
Same.
The intention was to put a mobile home up on the property for him and his wife. Is that right?
He had mentioned that could have been one of the reasons.
Okay. Judge, I don't think I have anything else. Thank you.
All right, redirect.
Your Honor, I'm sorry to do this, but I'd ask for a brief sidebar. I think
Okay, why don't we do this? It's a good point for our
Good point for a break. They always tend to take the breaks. Is this guy back on the stand? All right, we're back from the break. And then do we get a recross on him?
Of the local congregation for me.
Okay, no, this is the next witness. Hold on, where is...
Offer our condolences.
This is his wife. This is Whitney Arnold. This is the wife of the last witness. Maybe she'll be spicy too. Let's see how she acts towards Chud.
I solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
All right, now that the witness is under oath, let me just inquire before examination begins. This trial has been live streamed as well as open to the public for view. Have you listened to or reviewed in any way any of the testimony that's taken place in the trial?
No, I have not.
Okay, have you discussed with anyone else their testimony that they've given in trial?
I have not.
Okay, thank you for your responses then. With that, Ms. Beatty, you can inquire on direct.
Thank you. Ma'am, could you please tell the jury your full name and then spell out your last name for Madam Court Reporter?
Sure. My name is Whitney Arnold. Arnold is Arnold.
Mrs. Arnold, where do you live?
I live in Sugar City, Idaho.
Okay. And
Sugar,
who are
sugar.
you married to?
Ron Arnold.
Do you know an individual named Chad Daybell?
Yes, I do.
Is he in the courtroom today?
Yes, he is.
Can you point to where he's sitting and what he's wearing?
He's here in a blue shirt with a plaid tie.
Okay. And were you familiar with an individual named Tammy Daybell?
Yes, I was.
How did you know Tammy Daybell?
Tammy and I were friends and acquaintances and collaborators. We knew each other in many different realms.
How did you meet Tammy Daybell?
I don't recall exactly. We lived in the same community and I lived within a couple of miles of her.
Did you attend church with the Daybells?
Yeah, we did.
Okay. I'd like to talk to you about October 19th of 2019.
Sure.
Did you get a call that morning?
Yes.
What was the nature of that call?
The phone call was from our clergy or bishop, and he just let us know. Ron took the phone call and just said, Tammy Daybell died.
Were you surprised?
Ooh, you think so, Cheryl?
I was shocked, actually.
What did you do after getting this phone call?
Ron and I decided that we'd go over and offer our condolences and see if there was anything we could do to help, and also maybe get some answers. It was very unexpected and pretty shocking. I think we were also looking for verification. Is this true? Could this have really happened?
Okay. And did you over the Daybell residence that day?
We did.
Approximately what time was that?
I don't have an exact time, but before 9.
Okay. And did you make contact with anybody there?
Yeah, we did.
Do you remember who was there at the residence that morning?
Emma, Leah, Garth, Seth, Chad, and I can't recall if Michaela was there or not. Michaela is Seth's wife.
And Emma, Leah, Garth, and Seth, are those all Chad's children?
These are all Chad and Tammy's adult children, yes.
Okay. Did you talk to Chad?
I did talk to Chad that morning.
How would you describe his demeanor?
Maybe disconnected. I was expecting to see more emotion, but there wasn't a lot of emotion, which is not indicative of anything. Just grief experiences. It shows itself in many different ways.
Sure. Did you have a conversation with Mr. Daybell?
I did.
Did he indicate to you how Tammy had passed away or how she died?
He did not.
Did you have a conversation with him regarding an autopsy?
I did. After we had spoken with the kids for a while, there was, confusion and grief and a lot of sadness. And turning away from the kids, I asked Chad, have you considered an autopsy? Assuming the answer would be yes for such a young, vibrant woman. And his answer to me was no. So I pressed again, are you sure you don't want to do an autopsy? And then I turned and faced the children and Chad at the same time and said, don't you want to know? These girls carry the same DNA as their mother. Wouldn't you want to know if there's anything that can be prevented in the future? And he said no, very calmly. And we felt like the emergency responders that was here to take Tammy's body away had a pretty good idea of how she died.
Okay. At some time after the 19th of October, did you learn whether Chad had remarried?
Yes, I did learn that Chad had remarried.
When did you learn that Chad had remarried?
It was within a couple of days of him actually getting married.
And when was that?
I found out on a Sunday.
Weird.
Do you remember what month that was in?
November.
Okay. Did you ever have the opportunity to meet Chad's new wife?
I did.
How did that come about?
Since Tammy had died, we had been inviting Chad and Tammy's children over to our home for dinner. And our intent was to offer them a place to grieve, a place to have a little reprieve, to be nurtured. And that had become kind of our habit, or not habit, but it had become more familiar to us, inviting them over every Monday night. And Chad came back in town, which we were made aware of. And so we asked for, or Ron had initiated contact with Chad and let me know that Chad and his new wife would be coming to our home that night with the children for dinner.
And did they come to your home that night?
They did come to our home that evening.
And did you have a conversation with them?
Yes, not with Chad specifically. I was understandably disappointed and frustrated.
Why were you frustrated?
I felt like emotionally that was not fair to the kids as they were grieving their mother. And Yeah, it just felt, I was at odds with him within myself, and I never verbalized it to him, just recognizing maybe where he was at in his own grieving process.
Judge, and just as an inquiry, could we have some foundation as to when this meal took place?
And when did this meal take place?
I can't give a specific date, but it was a Monday night
In November?
in November,
Would that be 2019?
2019, before Thanksgiving and after probably the 1st of November.
Okay.
That's
See
as close as I
something,
can
say
get.
something.
Okay, thank you.
Perfect
Thank you, Mr. Pryor.
example.
Did you speak with Lori that night that they were at your house for dinner?
We did. I did have some conversation with her.
And when you spoke with Lori, was Chad present?
Yes, Chad was present.
Did you have the opportunity to ask Lori about whether or not she has children?
Just part of casual conversation, asking her the questions. Where are you from? Where did you grow up? Do you have children? And to which her answer was, yes, I have 7 children.
Did she tell you whether or not she still had children at home?
Actually, that was a specific question. And she said all of our children are out of the home.
Oh, Lord.
Okay. And when she said she had 7 children, did you understand that to mean that she had 7 children, or did you understand that to mean she was referring to her children and Chad's children?
I was unclear on that.
Okay. Your Honor, if I may have just a moment.
You may.
Yeah, this lady is straightforward. I agree with you, Mark. Let's skip ahead to the cross-examination. Here we go.
Good morning.
Look at Chud.
You described
He's
that you and
so
Chad are
thrilled
friends, good
to
friends.
be the-
In fact, when he moved from Springville to Rexburg, do you recall what year that was?
I think it was 2015.
Right. You continued that friendship and came to visit him somewhat regularly, correct?
We did. When we were in Idaho to visit our children in Rexburg, we stopped in and saw him and Tammy.
Now, I'm looking at a phrase that says bishopric secretary.
He is, when I was called as a bishop in my LDS ward,
Okay.
he was called as, I asked for him to be my executive secretary,
What?
which is, he would take care of all of my appointments, would be there when people were there. So we had 2 people present all the time. And he was very much a part of serving in the bishopric of the local congregation for me.
And in that regard, the 2 people who share that responsibility, being a bishop in a LDS faith is a high honor.
I would say I wouldn't wish it on anybody, but I would, it's one where you're responsible for a local congregation. And I said, so yes.
Okay. And the relationship between the bishop of the ward and the bishopric, and I'm going to.
What happened to the lady? Wait a minute. That's Craig Huff. He must not have crossed her for very long. No, he doesn't, but here it is. Sorry. No, what the heck? Now I'm confused. Hold on, guys. Let me find the right spot here. That girl doesn't get cross-examined? That is weird. Okay, well, I guess Mr. Huff is next. He's another friend, LDS ward from the a friend and lives in the LDS ward.
You know him so well. How would you describe him?
When I was associating with him when he was down in Springville, it was wonderful. I mean, he served in the Scouts with my children. He was very much involved in the local congregation.
Scouts.
He was very much involved. A wonderful person.
Yikes.
Okay. And in terms of personality traits, how would you describe those personality traits?
It's sort of hard to differentiate the church side of it and just the direct relationship. I think he was very driven with his writing. He was very driven with wanting to do things that would make sense to people. I know that he loved the writing. He loved being with the youth. He loved being with people. So I would say that's probably the biggest thing that stands out to me.
And if you were to pick between someone who is humble or someone who's maybe a little ostentatious, which one would Chad better fit?
When we were down there, I
I'm
would
going
say
to object on relevance here.
Overruled.
when I knew Chad down there, I would say that he was fairly humble. So,
Servant of the church,
yes,
someone who was wanting to serve in the capacity in your faith in a strong way.
yes.
Okay. Now, you talked about the passwords a little bit. You had been over to Chad's house a number of times, right?
I had.
And you were actually relatively close to Tammy as well, right?
Yes.
Were you aware that it was Tammy who did the finances and the organization of the company that they were running?
Yes.
And it was Tammy who was basically the driving force between running the publishing company, right?
I know that from a finance standpoint, that Tammy was the one that was very much involved.
Right.
And so,
And Chad was the, would it be fair to say that Chad was the artistic side? He was the one who wrote the books.
yes,
He was very passionate about a variety of different theories in his books, right?
that's correct.
And if you were to categorize Chad's books, would you say fiction or nonfiction?
Well, I would say they are nonfiction. I'll say it from, he at the beginning of his books, he always said it was this is my opinions. This is nonfiction. He never presented the ones that I read of his as being fact. So,
Okay. And he enjoyed the passion of expression. Would that be fair?
yes,
And you would say that as an artist, he would elaborate, and he always liked the process of elaborating and discussing in a wide lens different theories and ideas, right?
yeah, they were
I'll say
they were his theories that different than what some of the things that I thought. But yes,
But we can all agree that it's everybody has different theories and ideas, especially when it comes to religion, right?
correct.
So
Chad is a
if
potato.
Tammy was running the finances, was she the one? Was she solely responsible for the finances, to your knowledge?
I don't know, to my knowledge.
Okay, but you do know that she was the one holding the purse book.
I know that Tammy, when a check was written, Tammy wrote the check.
Okay. So to discuss the idea of finances, that was a burden that was going to be placed upon Chad on the passing of Tammy. Would that be fair?
It would be.
Okay. And you mentioned when you were visiting with Chad that there was some expression of grief at the time of the memorial by Chad.
In the viewing, yes, very much.
And anything that he said to you, did you find that his expression of grief at that time was genuine?
Yes.
So you didn't have any perception that he was faking it or trying to pretend to be grief-stricken about the loss of his wife. Is that right?
During the viewing, no, I did not.
And again, you've known him for a long time.
Yes.
That relationship was so close that you were, as part of your commitment to your religion and your faith, you were going to appoint him and have him work as the person closest to you to conduct your role as the bishop, right?
Correct.
So you'd be a pretty good person to judge whether someone's faking it about grief or not faking it about grief. Would that be fair?
I don't know
Oh,
that I could say
Lord.
I'm a pretty good person. What I felt was genuine when with his.
And in knowing Chad for a significant period of time, you truly felt that he was expressing a genuine grief about the loss of his wife. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. I have nothing else, Judge. Thank you.
All right. All right, redirect.
Fair?
Yes.
Okay, wait, who is this guy?
Come to know anything about Tammy's activity level when she's not at the school?
Hold on. I didn't know there was one more witness added at the end here. Let's see who he is. I haven't seen this at all. We'll see who he is and then we'll fast forward to prior.
Thanks.
Let's get the grounds.
All right, now that the witness has been sworn, I have a few questions before direct begins. Mr. Garner, this trial has been live streamed as well as open to the public. Have you observed or watched in any way any of the trial testimony since the case started?
No.
Okay, have you discussed with anyone else the testimony they provided in trial?
No.
Okay, thanks for your responses. Mr. Wixom, you can inquire on direct.
Sorry, Principal Garner, can you please state and spell your first and last name for the record?
My name is Richard Garner, Richard, Garner, Garner.
Okay, he's the principal.
Thank you. And where do you live?
I live in Rexburg, Idaho.
Where do you work?
I work at Central Elementary School in Sugar City, Idaho.
And you're the
Do any of these guys have masculine voices?
principal there?
Yeah.
Asking for a friend.
How long have you worked there?
I've been at Central for this is the end of my 6th year in that building in our district.
Where did you work prior to that?
I was at a building 200 yards away, Kirscheider Media, for 22 years before that.
Excuse me. Do you recall working with Tammy Daybell?
Yes.
Right. I want to draw your attention back to the summer and fall of 2019. First, can you explain to the jury what was Tammy's job at the school?
She was our librarian.
that was her main job. That was like on her contract. That was her main focus. But she also expanded that. She would do the usual librarian things with checking out books, reading stories to the little kids. It was kindergarten through 3rd grade. So she was working with them, but she also developed and helped us organize our computer lab. I asked her to help to make that better, and she was good with computers. So she was developing our computer lab and showing them basic skills and internet safety and those kind of things. And then she volunteered. She covered some lunchroom duties, outside duties, and then in the lunchroom, she offered to check the kids in for lunch and take the count for the lunch count.
So Tammy was an overachiever at work. And look at Chum. He's like, quit talking about all the good things about my wife. No, because your wife, you didn't deserve. All right, let's fast forward. And now we're going to go. Pryor is going to cross-examine the principal from Tammy's school, which would be her boss.
Would you prefer that I refer to you as principal or Mr. Garner? What would be your preference?
Mr. Garner's fine.
Thank you. So, Mr. Garner, I saw through the records that
he does
you were
sound
interviewed
little.
by Officer Mattingly. Is that right?
That's correct.
Do you remember when that interview took place?
It was in May of 2020.
He looks like Officer Payne.
Judge, I'm sorry. I'm trying to. If I could just have a moment, Judge.
Yes.
Pryor. Always need a moment.
Okay. And I noticed that in the interview, you used an expression when you were discussing Emma and Tammy's relationship. Do you recall what that expression is you used?
I don't know the exact word.
If I were to suggest to you that you said Emma and Tammy were thick and tight,
Oh my God.
would you explain to me what you meant by that?
The fuck?
They were mother and daughter and colleagues at work and friends.
Well, thick and tight, they're mother and daughter, but it was more than that, wasn't it? They were exceptionally close, correct?
They were very close.
They worked at the same school together. During any free time, they tend to spend most of their time together. Would that be fair?
Yes.
But now you spoke about Tammy and what you observed, but you also told Officer Mattingly that you didn't know anything about Tammy outside of school, correct?
Well, I was talking about they went to Zumba.
Well, that's not what I'm talking about.
Okay.
I'm talking about in terms of her home life, what was going on with her family at home. You don't know anything about that, right?
I was not very aware of her.
Okay.
family.
What you were aware is what was going on at the school and the fact that on a couple of occasions you may have observed her going to a Zumba class, right?
Correct.
Okay. Now, in terms of the 5K race that you referenced, you mentioned that Joe was the sponsor of that race, or was the promoter? Which was it?
Organizer. Promoter.
Organizer. Okay. And then Tammy mentioned to you that they were there to support Joe as part of the organizer of this event, correct?
Yes.
Joe is Emma's
would it be fair to
husband.
say that Joe would know, who ran in the race or who participated in the race?
Joe knows.
Yes.
Okay. And you saw Tammy at the finish line, is that right?
Yes, I saw them cross the finish line.
Okay. Okay.
Thick and tight. Cross that
So
finish
in other words,
line.
you actually saw Tammy running. Is that what you're telling me?
Yes.
Okay. Now with this knowledge that Emma and Tammy were so close, Emma's grief in this situation was very genuine. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
And you mentioned that you thought, and I don't want to put words or cause an objection, but when you said that Chad was there, did you think that was shock or he was just being stoic?
I believe I used the word stoic.
Okay. Trying to be strong. Is that fair?
I don't know. I put it to, he could have been exhausted. He could have been in shock. He could have been strong. I don't know.
Now, were you aware of where Tammy grew up and where her family roots originated?
I knew she was from Springville.
Okay. So did you find it unusual that they would have a funeral in the place where she was raised and her family roots? Would you find that somewhat unusual?
No.
Okay. So this idea that you wanted people to, from your school to celebrate at the memorial, you approached Chad with that idea, correct?
Yes, we were wanting to be able to honor her.
Right. And you would agree that she was a reliable worker at work and someone that could be counted on at work.
Yes.
She's one of these people that whether she was sick or not, she would come to work and she would work and not really let on that she may not have been feeling well. That's consistent with her character.
Objection, Your Honor. The attorney is fine.
Same.
Would it be consistent with her character to show up to work and put on a strong face? Would that be something you wouldn't something that you would expect from someone
This
like
is
Tammy?
a weak argument.
Possibly.
Okay. You mentioned, Officer Mattingly, that Tammy was with the school district for 4 or 5 years. Is that what you said?
So I said at the time.
Okay. And Tammy was actually with your school she was just starting her second year. Is that right?
It was I was the start of my second year working at the school. So my time working with her.
Right. And it was her start of her second year as well, correct?
I'm not sure.
Okay. And at the start of your second year, that's when the insurance, as far as getting insurance and insurance kicking in, would start. You'd be eligible for that bump on the insurance once you start your second year. Is that right?
Objection outside of scope, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Judge, I think that's all I have.
Any redirect?
Judge, could I inquire as to where the redirect would come from?
Well, let me first see if there is going to be redirect, Mr. Wixon.
I might have just a couple of questions, Your Honor.
Go ahead, I'll permit it.
Why did he ask where the redirect would come from? Okay, so that's it. We are caught up. That is the end of day 12, guys. Not too juicy, but a couple little spicy comments, but very, very weak argument, I think. I agree, Mark. I do want to show you guys a couple of photos, though. Today, right now, actually, there's a live memorial for JJ and Tylee. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, that's Mrs. Cox. I think that's Lori's mother. But don't quote me on that. It could be like a family member. But it looks like Lori's mother. And I saw that on Facebook, so I really wanted to share that. Look at the shadow. Yeah, I'm not sure if that's Mrs. Cox. Don't quote me there, but it's somebody from one of their family members. So let's get that off there. And then one more thing I want to show you that I just found absolutely despicable. Despicable to me. You know, I've been vocal about my, feelings about CrimeCon. I'm not a big, huge fan of it. I used to like it. It's changed over the years. And I was looking at their roster this year. And I thought, wow, they reached, in my eyes, an all-time low. That is Lori's mother. Holy shit. So yeah, that was Mrs. Cox. Now, Summer Shiflett is Lori's sister. And she has a star behind her. She's the star of CrimeCon this year. Shut the fuck up. Something's wrong with this. This woman is just as sketchy. She's part of a whole sketchy fam. Yes. I am very vocal about my feelings about CrimeCon. I don't like the weird shit they do. And I think this is weird because she's a paid guest. They paid her ass to come here. Summer Shiflett is the sister of Lori Vallow Daybell. She has learned more about true crime the past 4 years than she ever thought possible. Maybe she'll answer how her sister Stacy died. Do you think she'll tell us that? Maybe she'll answer how Lolly died and why Lori uses a Lolly Time email address. Or maybe we'll ask why she didn't check on her niece and nephew. Do you think she's going to do an open panel? I don't think so. But hey. I think she might be wearing a bracelet too in honor of JJ and Tylee, if I'm not mistaken. Look at the star, though. Summer, you're a star. Let's play that Prince song. Whoa, you might not know it now, but baby, that's what you are. You're a fucking star. I mean, come on. Go home, grieve your fucking niece and nephew. Do whatever it is y'all do. But my God goodness, to pay thousands of dollars to see this, I ain't about it, folks. I'm about learning about forensics and like Joe Scott Morgan and, Nancy Grace being there to talk about her experiences, shit like that. But you start bringing in defendants like, I don't know, man. I don't know. With a star. You know what I have to say to that?
Hold up. Wait a minute. Something ain't right.
Something ain't right with that. I think we need to get our morals back in check, man, and rethink how far we're willing to go with true crime to make it that true before it becomes disrespectful and exploitive and downright gross. Let me know what y'all think about all that in the comment section below. Thank you for joining. That concludes day 12. We will be doing another live stream for days 13 and 14. And don't forget, tomorrow is members only at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard. We're going to be talking about the creepy haunted Watts house. Oh, Jammers is having weather. You're right. Mr. Pryor could go and sell Chad's books at CrimeCon. It seems like the same skeezy kind of shit. The Daybell children on panel. I mean, ugh. Just gross. Just gross. All right. You guys, I love you. It's all in what you call entertainment, I reckon. All right. Let's roll our credits. Thank you so much for your support, and I'll see you tomorrow. Be sure to check out my other videos and playlists for more true crime content. And if that's not enough, you can join our Patreon. Don't have a tinfoil hat? It's okay. We'll make you one. It's that easy. See you guys in the next video.
See you later. Bye.
I don't give a damn. I don't really care about you and your problems. I don't give a damn. You talk way too much. I have heard enough about you and your problems. I don't give a damn.
I'm gonna get drunk and ride my horse.
Stand up!
Why are people such idiots?
You wanna be with me. You wanna feel something real, but I'm feeling differently.
God almighty.
Plans to get to friends, but don't wanna face the fact that I ain't got time, I ain't got time for that. Staying up late, sleeping all day, dreaming about Cadillacs. Buying new shoes, hanging by the pool.
Why by yourself?
Calling my phone when you feel alone, but I'll never call you back. I ain't got time,
I don't want Jennifer or two Jennifers.
Thanks so much, Jennifer.
Bye, Jennifer.